Chapter 2787. The old man in front of him definitely knew a lot about Class 1 Hall. Yi Qinghan was very sure that if he could get his help, it would be much easier to deal with Class 1 Hall. However, this clan leader didn't seem to want revenge. He was in despair because he understood. You only know the tip of the iceberg about Class 1 Hall. Its original intention was to prevent the ancient gods and ancient immortals from falling into desolation. Back then, it was established by the Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor. He recruited more than 3,400 members from the ancient immortal world, including the immortal generals, the Taigu Emperor, and the clan leaders and sect leaders of various superpowers in the ancient immortal world. In the name of preventing bloodline techniques from being passed down, he collected all the secret techniques and divine abilities in the world. Some people didn't agree, but the immemorial Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor fought his way through and defeated all of them. He also defeated all the ancient emperors and ancient master gods in the most powerful manner, successfully suppressing everyone and establishing the famous Class 1 Hall. Class 1 Hall has 6 halls: main, heaven, earth, middle, god, immortal, and outer. The 6 halls run through the entire ancient immortal world and the immortal world. They are intertwined like a big tree, firmly holding the immortal world and the ancient immortal world. The main hall only recruits the Taigu Emperor and members of the ancient master gods. The Heaven Hall recruits the most talented talents in the world. Back then, the inspector and I were in the Heaven Hall. We were a group of children under the age of 15 or 16, about 3,000 to 4,000 people. The survival rate of that group of children was probably less than 1%. The Middle Hall is the gathering place of the ancient gods and immortal generals. The Earth Hall is scattered in the depths of the universe, where some of the most bizarre ancient gods and ancient immortals are gathered. There are countless experts there. No one knows what that group of people can do, but every year, a large amount of information and resources will be sent to the main hall. The Shrine Hall and the Immortal Hall are responsible for collecting the elites and intelligence of ancient deities and ancient immortals respectively. They are also responsible for studying the rules of order of ancient deities and ancient immortals. As for the External Hall, it consists of people scattered in different places, from immortal generals and immortal generals to slaves. Even the slightest disturbance will alert them. They are responsible for reporting to the head of the External Hall, and the head of the External Hall will transmit the message to the head of the General Hall. This is a very perfect organization. They intersect and monitor each other. As long as Class 1 Hall doesn't fall, the ancient gods and ancient immortals will never fall. Later on, Immortal Emperor Yin-Yang received some news and left Class 1 Hall. He handed Class 1 Hall to a very unfamiliar member. From then on, all the members of the headquarters and Heaven wore masks. From then on, Class 1 Hall became a lot more mysterious. My father told me all this information. I don't know much about it myself, especially since we've left Class 1 Hall for so many years. A lot of information has changed. Of the Immortal Emperor. The Immortal Emperor smiled bitterly and shook his head. They didn't disappear. They are hiding in the dark. They are waiting for the Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor to return. Since they are hiding in the dark, are you interested in working with me to destroy the main hall and kill the hall master? Yi Qinghan suggested. Yi Qinghan thought that the Immortal Emperor would agree without hesitation. Who knew that the Immortal Emperor would refuse without hesitation? Because I understand, I have never thought of taking revenge. Otherwise, the Immortal Emperor will be destroyed in vain. Their ending will be even worse than the Yin clan. The Immortal Emperor said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said no more. Since the Immortal Emperor didn't want to take revenge, there was no need to make things difficult for him. One last question. How many members were expelled by Class 1 Hall? Yi Qinghan asked. The Immortal Emperor shook his head and said, I don't know. My clan has already expelled 13 sects and clans. I don't know what happened later. Thank you for answering my question. I will take my leave now. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and bowed before leaving. The immortal emperor didn't stop him. He just looked coldly at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. He tapped the stone wall with his fingertip. After half an incense stick's worth of time had passed since Yi Qinghan left the cave, he slowly said, "Stop him. If you can suppress him, suppress him. If you can kill him, kill him." Whoosh! After saying that, the immortal emperor directly left the place and flew into the void. In the void, the Blood Saint tribe's elder once again set up a camouflage technique, making it even more realistic. He also started to set up a passage, which turned into a black hole and devoured all of the nearby stars. The Blood Saint realm was hidden behind the black hole, making it so that the madman would not dare to act recklessly. Yi Qinghan had just walked down the sky staircase and arrived at the foot of the sacred mountain. There were already 10 young men and 3 young women waiting for him. The men were as handsome as jade and the women were as beautiful as flowers. They all held swords in their hands and wore white robes. Any one of them was an invincible expert. Their goal was very clear. They wanted to suppress Yi Qinghan and keep him here. Otherwise, the immortal emperor would easily expose the immortal emperor. The strongest man in the lead cupped his fists and said, "The 10 most outstanding youths of the immortal emperor have come to challenge you. Please enlighten us." Yi Qinghan turned around and glanced at the sacred mountain. He didn't know that the immortal emperor had already entered the void through another passage. However, since the other party had already declared war, they must have received the immortal emperor's permission. If he lost today, he would definitely be kept here. Yi Qinghan looked at the 10 people. If everyone had the same mentality as the previous 3, it would be easy to deal with them. However, if they were like the people from Crazy Manor, he might not be able to leave today. "Lead the way," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Whoosh! The leading young man quickly led Yi Qinghan out of the sacred mountain. The immortal emperor's realm was boundless. It was like an immortal world with many death zones. The 11 of them rushed into a vast desert. There were no living creatures within a radius of 100,000 miles. No matter how they fought, they wouldn't hurt the innocent. Boom! Yi Qinghan was the first to land in the desert. His hands were behind his back. His battle robe was swept up by the heat waves. His black hair danced in the wind. The dragon and tiger mask were ferocious. The image of dragon and tiger appeared. His aura was like a rainbow, like the Taigu Emperor. "All of you come at me together. If you win, I will stay here. If you lose, you will leave with me. We will take revenge for our ancestors," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. It was impossible for the 10 great families of the immortal emperor not to know the secret history of their family. They were young and had the drive to take revenge. However, the immortal emperor didn't allow it. They had no choice but to endure. The 10 most outstanding youths looked at each other. They wanted to agree, but they were afraid that the immortal emperor wouldn't allow it. After a long time, the strongest of the 10 nodded and said, "All right. If you can withstand the 10 of us working together, we will go with you to take revenge." Yi Qinghan smiled and gestured with his hand. "Yi Qinghan, please enlighten me." The 10 experts unsheathed their swords. Their sword aura soared into the sky, resisting Yi Qinghan's aura. They pressed against the dome. Even from far away they could feel the battle intent. Yi Qinghan remained as still as a mountain. He didn't even use berserk. He wanted to use his skills to suppress these 10 people and make them accept their defeat wholeheartedly. Then, they would follow him out for revenge. Whoosh! The 10 experts moved the stars and formed a formation to surround Yi Qinghan. Chapter 2788. Many thanks to Huiying Trading Company for coming to help. There are still 4 or 5 chapters left today. In the desert, a sword pierced through heaven and earth. The sword chi pierced through 100,000 li. Whoosh! 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 The 10 outstanding youths fought together, leaving countless afterimages. No matter how fast Yi Qinghan was, he could not escape the encirclement. Moments later, the battle robe on his shoulder was cut open, and blood splattered everywhere. Boom! Yi Qinghan kept dodging, but when he could not, he punched the back of the sword, causing the immortal sword to tremble and howl in the air. These 10 people had special bloodlines, and the strength in their bodies completely exceeded that of ordinary people. Their sword techniques were swift and fierce, and holy light covered the desert. Each one of them was very strong, so when the 10 of them joined forces, it was not something that ordinary people could contend against. Yi Qinghan was forced into a corner. The image of dragon and tiger soared into the sky, and he used all his strength to kick the back of the sword. However, even with his strength, he could not kick the sword away. This was because the 2 experts behind him stabbed the back of the sword, and they were staring at it. Wang! Wang! The immortal sword howled, and the other experts were already attacking from all directions. Every strike was soul-stealing, and they had no intention of holding back. It was as though they really wanted to keep Yi Qinghan here. Boom! Bang! Yi Qinghan's body turned into a swimming dragon, and he kept striking the back of the sword. Hua! Another sword slashed across Yi Qinghan's chest, and the immortal robe was like a rotten leaf, tearing apart with a touch. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, and he accurately dodged the sword move. His left hand turned into a sharp knife, and he slashed at the expert's back. Bang! The youth was smashed down almost instantly, and sand flew everywhere. The mountains and rivers trembled, and heat waves surged into the sky. Poochie! Yi Qinghan only managed to injure one person, and the strongest man pierced his left arm from the back, causing him to bleed profusely. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the other experts attacked, not giving Yi Qinghan a chance at all. When the 10 of them joined forces, their combat strength definitely surpassed that of a Dao patroller. It was no wonder that the Divine Blood Tribe's leader did not hesitate to give the order to kill, and did not even need to attack. Swish! Yi Qinghan shifted his body and was forced back onto the desert. His body continuously retreated, but the 10 people once again formed an alliance. Their swords were shadowless. 2 people in a team, both offensive and defensive. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body suddenly leaped backwards as 2 sword beams streaked across the top of his head. A group of men and women followed closely behind, flying less than half a meter above him. Yi Qinghan suddenly did a backflip and kicked 2 people in the back, sending them flying dozens of meters away. Boom boom boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan kept flipping backwards, but the other team had already closed in on him. They kept slashing past him, and almost every time their swords brushed past his body, his clothes would be torn apart. Yi Qinghan had retreated 150 miles. He had lost count of how many times he had somersaulted backward, but he still could not shake off his opponent. Roar! Dragon and tiger roared as they charged towards the 2 people in front. Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity and changed from a backflip to a somersault in the air. His legs smashed downwards as he ruthlessly kicked the 2 people in the back, trampling them beneath his feet. However, the 10 people's alliance was almost flawless. They pressed forward step by step, and after the 2 people were defeated, another team came from behind. They did not give Yi Qinghan any chance to heavily injure the 2 people who had been defeated. 2 swords pierced through the air, and in the blink of an eye, they were right in front of Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan subconsciously grabbed the 2 swords in front of his chest. His 10 fingers clenched tightly, but he was sent flying by the 2 experts, while the 2 youths beneath his feet escaped. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body flew through the air as he was knocked back by the 2 youths. He was unable to stabilize his body. Swish swish. Soon after, 6 experts attacked from all directions. They were extremely fast, and if it were anyone else, it would be difficult to dodge all of the sword moves. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He did not expect that he had underestimated the people of the world. The emperor's legacy had declined, but that did not mean that every race had declined. For example, the sacred blood tribe was not much weaker than the immemorial era. A special bloodline would always be a special bloodline. Once they underwent atavism, they would immediately return to their former glory. In that instant, Yi Qinghan did not have much time to react. Yi Qinghan immediately let go of one sword and turned his body to the side. He managed to dodge one sword, but he did not manage to dodge the other sword. His right shoulder was pierced, and blood splattered across the desert. The friction from the sword qi had caused his shoulder to burn. Boom! Yi Qinghan's left hand fiercely chopped down on the right hand of the expert who had stabbed him, directly breaking the hand that was holding the sword. The sword pierced through the void and crashed into the experts behind him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan no longer dared to underestimate his opponent. With a wave of his hand, he took out Berserk Hammer and swept it in all directions. In an instant, he was sent flying from the encirclement and fled dozens of li away. In just a short 2 hours, Yi Qinghan had more than a dozen sword wounds on his body, while the 10 opponents had only suffered light injuries. The power of the anti-order laws rapidly healed his wounds. These injuries might be serious to others, but they were nothing to him. Yi Qinghan nodded in gratification. He did not expect to make an unexpected discovery here. Their sword formation was too sharp and strict. In addition, the 10 of them were all from the older generation of Insane Manor. When they worked together, they were even stronger. If he could obtain the support of these 10 people, he might be able to turn the tables in the battle against Class 1 Hall. Standing in the void, the Blood Saint Tribe's patriarch had been watching the battle. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be able to block the continuous attacks of 10 Blood Saint experts for 2 hours with his bare hand. His strength should not be much weaker than the Taigu Emperor's. He is someone who does not belong to the laws of order and stands outside of the 5 element. This person's combat power should be on par with the strongest emperor in the world, Flame Emperor. He might even surpass him in the future. At the mention of Flame Emperor, the Blood Saint Tribe's patriarch felt that it was a pity. Back then, Flame Emperor was the goal of many people. If not for the fact that the Blood Saint Tribe's patriarch was still an ignorant youth when Flame Emperor was about to die, he would have probably helped Flame Emperor. Boom! Just as he was immersed in his memories, Yi Qinghan fought against 10 people with his blade, sending them flying many times in a row. However, because the 7-foot Berserk Hammer hadn't been repaired since the last battle, the chaotic blade billet was almost destroyed. Yi Qinghan could not bear to part with the chaos billet, so he could only put it away. Whoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan formed a seal with 2 fingers and mobilized a monstrous power to activate the Immortal Emperor Finger technique. His 10 fingers erupted at the same time, rumbling non-stop. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The multicolored snake coiled around one of them, opening its mouth to bite. Hum. The 10 people divided up their work in an orderly manner. One of them stabbed the sword in the other's hand at the waist. The sword qi was so close to the multicolored snake's head that it had no choice but to dodge and escape. Sword shadows filled the air, leaving afterimages everywhere. The finger seals collided with the mountains and rivers, shattering tens of thousands of laws. They clashed with the immortal swords, but they were not at a disadvantage. Yi Qinghan's eyes scanned the surroundings. Dragons and tigers soared into the sky, looking for an opening. After fighting for more than 10 days, one of the women finally ran out of stamina. Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity and sent her helper flying with a palm strike. Following that, his fist and palm intertwined and finally, his palm strike landed on her chest. Crack! That woman's stamina was already running out. Her sternum was broken by Yi Qinghan's palm strike. Endless anti-order energy flowed through her limbs and bones, directly cutting off her strength to continue fighting. Bang bang bang! Yi Qinghan gained the upper hand. Like a ferocious dragon crossing the river, his long legs swept out and sent the Blood Saint tribe's experts flying. However, more than 10 sword wounds appeared on his body, and his right leg was almost chopped off. Boom! Yi Qinghan was merciless in his attacks. His fists penetrated flesh, breaking bones, and extinguishing vitality. He had almost defeated 7 or 8 people, leaving only 2 or 3 people with the strength to continue fighting. However, Yi Qinghan was also heavily injured. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and looked at the approaching Blood Saint tribe leader. His eyes flashed with an evil glint. The anti-order energy in his body suppressed the sword wounds, and he slowly retreated. Chapter 2789. In any case, the Saint Blood tribe's leader was the Taigu Emperor. Even if Yi Qinghan was at his peak, he might not be able to win, let alone now that he was heavily injured. Senior, you wouldn't want to do something that would make your enemies happy, right? Yi Qinghan looked at the Saint Blood tribe's leader and reminded him. The Saint Blood tribe's leader had a dignified expression, but by releasing his aura, his attitude was clear. The Saint Blood tribe doesn't want to fight anymore. Fellow Taoist, if you don't want to stay, the Saint Blood tribe's leader said. The power in Yi Qinghan's body surged, and the speed at which his wounds healed far surpassed the Saint Blood tribe's leader's expectations. The starry sky demon core's patterns turned into fine lines that wrapped around every meridian in his wounds, sewing them up like needles. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan pretended to be strong and fought for time. He reminded the Saint Blood tribe's leader, "Do you think that Class 1 Hall's Hall Master won't find you if you don't want to fight? I don't want to fight either, but Class 1 Hall didn't give me a chance. The Flame tribe didn't want to fight either, but didn't they still get exterminated? If you think so highly of Class 1 Hall, then you're really letting down your dead father." The Saint Blood tribe's leader's aura stagnated, and he coldly replied, "If I can't provoke them, I can hide. If they want to fight, they have to find this place first." Yi Qinghan mocked, "If I can find this place, then why can't Class 1 Hall, who has 6 halls, find you? You also said that you don't want to take revenge because you understand them. Since you know how strong they are, why can't you work together? Even if you don't want to implicate your tribe, you can leave these 10 people to me. They can represent your Saint Blood tribe to fight and at least contribute to your revenge. If you win, your grudge will be cleared. If you lose, you can at least answer to your father. Isn't it ridiculous to hide here like a rat crossing the street?" In truth, the 10 outstanding youths definitely wanted to go out and fight. After this battle, Yi Qinghan was strong enough. If they worked together to fight against Class 1 Hall, they still had a chance. "Grandpa tribe leader, I think we can," the leading youth said in a deep voice. The patriarch scolded coldly. "Shut up." Yi Qinghan struck while the iron was hot. He left and said, "Don't forget that aside from you, there are more than 10 great sects and clans that have been banished from the ancient immortal world. Each force will send 10 people, which means there are more than 100 experts. With my people, Class 1 Hall will not be undefeatable. Then take one of my palms. If you can take it, this old man will let you take revenge. Otherwise, don't send yourself to death." The Saint Blood tribe's patriarch released his aura. His emperor's might was vast and mighty as he condensed his heaven-covering palm. Yi Qinghan's wounds had already healed by about 80%, and he had no time to worry about anything else. Subconsciously, he began to circulate his power through the Dharma and Logos reversal technique. It was similar to the reverse Taiji technique. Space-time was being reversed, and the realm of Blood Saint was rotating at a much faster rate. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's speed was extremely fast. Afterimages of his palms were unceasing, and the 5 elements of heaven and earth were in chaos. He was standing in his original spot, but it also seemed like he wasn't there at the same time. His figure was constantly shifting as he moved around the Saint Blood tribe's patriarch. Heaven-burning defying technique. Boom! Yi Qinghan took the initiative to attack. His monstrous power combined with the golden body of utmost sage. A palm strike came from behind the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch, causing space to constantly collapse. Bang! The Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch subconsciously turned around and found Yi Qinghan's true position. His heaven-shrouding palm swept through everything in its path and pressed against Yi Qinghan's palm strike. Boom! The two palms went against the heavens and fiercely collided. Space distorted and shattered, and the realm of Blood Saint's desert was split in two. Monstrous flames rushed out and engulfed the two. Whoosh! 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 The three Saint Blood Tribe experts, who were lightly injured, took the more seriously injured person and retreated 10,000 miles away. As they watched the battle in the center of the battlefield, they couldn't help but gasp. There was always someone stronger, and they were confident that they were invincible within their own realm. But when they saw Yi Qinghan, they realized that they had underestimated the people of the world. The heaven-burning defying technique contained the laws of order and the blue heavenly flame, burning everything within 10,000 miles. It directly refined the flames spewing out from the ground into nothingness. There was nothing it couldn't burn. Even the Saint Blood Tribe's power of Saint Blood was incinerated. In the blink of an eye, the flames engulfed the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch. Yi Qinghan's survival instincts allowed him to create a very simple cultivation method. But it was also a cultivation method that could reverse the laws of order. It was heaven-defying enough. Boom! Bang! Bang! Yi Qinghan and the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch exchanged dozens of palms in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan's hand bones were broken, but the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch's hands were also burning. The soul-tearing pain was unbearable, and he roared in anger as he retreated 10 miles away. Bam! 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 Yi Qinghan's retreating speed was even faster. The desert beneath his feet was crushed, and his battle robes were shattered. The power of reversing the laws of order condensed into battle robes, and his belt fluttered in the wind. Even though he was in a sorry state, he didn't lose his majesty. Whoosh! 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 The image of dragon and tiger tore through the void, helping Yi Qinghan stabilize his body. Even so, he still retreated 30 to 40 miles, almost facing the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch. Cough! 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 Yi Qinghan coughed up blood incessantly, and the bones in his hand protruded out of his body. His injuries were exceptionally severe, and were even more tragic than when he fought with the Dao Patrol for 20 years. At this moment, the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch was ignited by the heavenly flame. Even his emperor power couldn't stop it. His emperor body was burned red, and the heart-wrenching pain drove him crazy. Boom! The Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch formed a seal with his left hand and pressed it on his right arm. His emperor power surged and his saint blood suppressed the heavenly flame. After a long time, the heavenly flame was extinguished. His entire right arm was charred, and the pain caused his face to contort. What a powerful heavenly flame that reverses the laws of order! It's not outside the 5 elements. It's really ridiculous. Although the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch was furious, he couldn't help but admit that Yi Qinghan was truly heaven-defying. The 10 experts of the Saint Blood Tribe watched the battlefield in horror. They didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would be able to defeat their patriarch while severely injured. They couldn't help but look at each other. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth. He was in even more pain, and the bones in his right arm had protruded out of his body. It looked extremely brutal. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain, pressing the broken bones back in and rapidly healing his injuries. Fortunately, the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch didn't continue attacking, or he would have really died here today. After a long time, Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath and slowly walked toward the center of the battlefield. A crack more than 10 miles wide had almost torn the Saint Blood realm apart. The Taigu Emperor's combat strength was too terrifying. Only the laws of order of the ancient immortal world could withstand it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan appeared in front of the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch. He cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for the patriarch's recognition." The Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch shook his head, seeming to have aged even more. He waved his hand and said, "You can leave after healing your injuries. Remember, do not expose the Saint Blood Tribe's location in the future." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed, and the 10 youths were even more excited. After waiting for so many years, the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch had finally agreed to take revenge. "Many thanks, Patriarch. Many thanks, Grandpa Patriarch. We will definitely win this battle." The 10 youths bowed. The Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch returned to the sacred mountain, exhausted, leaving the 11 youths behind in the desert. Yi Qinghan looked at the heavily injured youths and immediately said in a deep voice, "Let's heal our injuries first. After that, we will immediately set off." "Okay," the 10 youths said in unison. The 11 youths returned to the foot of the sacred mountain and used the sacred mountain to heal their injuries. As for Yi Qinghan, he was pondering over the heaven-burning reverse technique. That palm strike just now was completely compatible with his physical body, and he had completely mobilized the power of the laws of order. That was why he had been able to send the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch flying. Please give me your recommendation tickets and monthly tickets. Chapter 2790. At the foot of the sacred mountain, Yi Qinghan had been adjusting himself here for several decades. He had thoroughly comprehended the burning heaven-defying palm technique, and his strength had increased by 30 to 40%. If he were to face the Saint Blood Tribe head again, he would not be defeated. Instead, he would be strong. If he were to retreat 10 li, the Saint Blood Tribe head would retreat 30 to 40 li. The increase in strength was enough to change the situation of the battle completely. At this time, the 10 young men and women of the Saint Blood Tribe had already come out of seclusion and were ready to go. They were all filled with fighting spirit. They would represent their tribe to fight against Class 1 Hall, vowing to avenge the Saint Blood great ancestor. The 11 of them simply bid farewell to the Saint Blood Tribe head, but he was neither cold nor warm. He only replied with a simple N and waved his hand, indicating for them to leave. Yi Qinghan and the others retreated and soared into the sky. The Saint Blood Tribe head looked at his tribesmen leaving with Yi Qinghan and whispered, "My father died. How could I not want revenge? I wish you all success and safe return." Outside the Star River, Yi Qinghan and the others stepped out of the illusion. The power of the black hole had almost swallowed them, but the 11 of them were not simple characters. They worked together and rushed out of the vortex, heading into the distance. Everyone briefly introduced themselves. Of the 10 people, the eldest was called Sheng Yan, the second was called Sheng Fei, the third was called Sheng Ke, the fourth was called Sheng Xing, the fourth was a woman called Sheng Lan, the fifth was Sheng Zik, the sixth and seventh were all women, and they were twins called Sheng Yener and Sheng Xianling, respectively. The eighth was Sheng Ling Feng, and the 9th and 10th were easy to remember. They were called Sheng Jiu and Sheng Xianling. They were all direct descendants of different fathers and mothers, but they had lived together since they were young. They lived together and cultivated together, and now their hearts were connected and they had a tacit understanding. Yi Qinghan gave a simple explanation of the structure of Crazy Manor, as well as the names of the members. They were all important figures and were easy to remember. Xing Yan and the others all wanted to see what the members of Crazy Manor looked like. "You all can just call me boss in the future. There's no need to call me sect master, it sounds distant." Yi Qinghan was in a good mood and said heroically, "Yes, boss." The 10 Saint Blood experts said one after another. Whoosh! The 11 of them chatted and stepped into the distance, continuing their search. Of course, it would be best if they could find more superpowers that were expelled from the ancient immortal world. Thousands of years had passed, and Yi Qinghan had already entered the deepest part of the Star River. If he didn't have the giant star beast demon core to connect to the stars and his own ability to connect to the stars, he would have been lost in the Star River long ago. After searching for many years, they found 2 more superpowers, both of which were powerful sects and clans that had been expelled back then. None of these factions had declined, and their fighting power was comparable to that of the immemorial era. However, they didn't have many true experts. It would be good for a faction to have 3 or 5 people like the older generation of Crazy Manor. Sect Saint Blood Manor and Sect 222 to the God Saint Zhu Hai and Tang Chu were both middle-aged men. The last one was a woman as beautiful as a flower. She didn't lose to the owner. She cultivated an ancient immortal great success cultivation technique. It was difficult for her to break through to the Great Emperor realm, but once she did, she would definitely be the number 1 under the Great Emperor realm. Now, she had fought with Yi Qinghan for more than 3,000 moves. Li Ying was a very beautiful name. She was more beautiful than a flower. Everyone liked her as soon as she appeared. They all expressed their goodwill, but were mercilessly rejected. Yi Qinghan smiled but didn't say anything. He had never interfered with these people's feelings. Moreover, he had already made it clear that he had enough women and didn't want to touch any of them. He couldn't help it. He was too handsome. Women would always drool over him. He had to give them a heads-up in advance to avoid getting into trouble. Xing Lan, Xing Yener and Xing Xianling snorted at Yi Qinghan's self-confidence and narcissism. As for Li Ying, she rolled her eyes. Along the way, everyone more or less understood Yi Qinghan. They all knew that he was usually sloppy, but when he fought, he didn't care about his life. Under normal circumstances, he liked to joke around. As for Yi Qinghan's 2 Chunibu spirit pets, they were very popular with the women. Especially when they shamelessly flattered Li Ying, the cold goddess, they always amused her. The multicolored snake gave himself an extremely Chunibu name, Elegance Yi. He was a perfect partner with Sovereign Yi. Along the way, the 2 fought countless times in order to fight for the title of Emperor of Beast. The multicolored snake didn't dare to kill, but Sovereign Yi used all kinds of shameless fighting methods. He always lured the multicolored snake into the group of experts, causing them to suffer. In the end, the great Elegance Yi was beaten black and blue. Along the way, with these 2 shameless fellows, Yi Qinghan had a lot of fun. He also didn't want to travel monotonously. After flying for thousands of years in the Milky Way, they didn't find any other races. Instead, they found a corpse on an endless dead star. It was a 30-meter-tall giant. He had been dead for who knew how many years, but there was still Emperor aura surging. The blood in his body didn't seem to have dried up. This was the real Taigu Emperor, one of the 12 immemorial emperors. This is the giant spirit emperor, one of the 12 immemorial emperors. My God, he actually died here. Who killed him? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't accept that such an existence had died here. The corpse was sitting, leaning against the mountain. His eyes were as bright as the sun, and the huge sword in his hand was stuck in the mountain, stabilizing his body. He hadn't fallen over for countless years. The huge corpse's chest was hollowed out, and the imprint of 5 fingers could be seen clearly. It had been completely pierced through by a palm strike. The immemorial war was too brutal. Yi Qinghan felt his hair stand on end. These people definitely didn't cultivate to this level. They must have been born as gods, blessed by the heavens. Phew! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He approached the corpse and realized that the blood in the giant spirit emperor's corpse hadn't dried up. It was just that the energy had decreased a lot. Otherwise, this corpse could have killed them with just a drop of blood. How powerful is the flame ancestor? He actually killed the 12 emperors together. The progenitor realm is too terrifying. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. He wanted to reach out and touch that realm, but he wasn't that confident. At this moment, Elegant Yi returned to his body. He, with his heavy taste, began to test the waters by devouring the giant spirit emperor's corpse. The emperor's corpse was almost destroyed. The blood had been eroded for countless years, and its lethality had weakened a lot. Crack, gulp. The colorful snake was incomparably brutal. From the beginning, it started to devour the flesh and blood. Wretch, everyone vomited. Eating the emperor's corpse, was this really elegant Yi? What a heavy taste. It was also brutal enough. Yi Qinghan's stomach was churning. He could understand the colorful snake devouring other flesh and blood, but devouring the emperor's corpse was something he couldn't bear. Supreme Yi covered his mouth and fled. He ran far away and vomited. This beast. After learning from me for so long, it still hasn't changed its bestial nature. Supreme Yi cursed loudly. Yi Qinghan also turned his head. He didn't dare to look at it at all. He thought that he was brutal enough, but this colorful snake was even more brutal than him. It was even more brutal than he could imagine. Chapter 2791. I still need more than 100 more recommendation votes to reach 30,000. Please give me your support. This week's number 1 recommendation votes, will it not be next week? King. In the end, a king cannot be defeated. The multicolored snake did not mind that the emperor corpse had been corroded for countless years. Its blood had turned black. Although it still had endless energy, no one would be willing to take it even if it was a supreme treasure. However, the multicolored snake unscrupulously devoured the blood and ate the rotten emperor corpse. Is it not afraid of being punished by the heavens? Ugh, Liang retched and almost vomited out her internal organs. She had fought countless battles in her life and killed many experts, but she had never vomited like this. She was full of the elegance of a goddess. It's just a beast. Will the heavens care about it? Supremacy Ye's face was pale as he cursed angrily. Zhu Hai, Tang Chu, and the 10 experts of the sacred blood were already powerless at this moment. Thinking back to the wretched Sheik brother and his current appearance, they couldn't help but feel a chill. They reckoned that there would be a psychological shadow in the future. Roar! Roar! As the multicolored snake devoured the emperor corpse's flesh and blood, its body was about to explode. It almost turned into a heavenly dragon that soared into the sky, brandishing its claws and piercing through its body. Its dragon horns drew the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers, and dragon whiskers formed. Its aura was monstrous. In the sky, dark clouds covered the sky. The tribulation clouds were born, and the pressure made it difficult for the heroes to breathe. At this moment, even Yi Qinghan was frightened. This power was enough to destroy this huge star. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan reached out to grab the Taigu Emperor sword. It was very huge, but the weapon spirit inside was wiped out. No wonder the master's corpse didn't resist when it was devoured. Roar! Although the weapon spirit was wiped out, the sword was still as powerful as a star. Yi Qinghan fled with the sword, but the multicolored snake continued to devour the emperor's blood and emperor's corpse. The others also fled, leaving behind the lone multicolored snake. The multicolored snake's dragon scales bloomed with a reddish-gold color. At this moment it was reborn and was incomparably ferocious. A huge emperor corpse was almost eaten up by it. Gurgle gurgle. The multicolored snake didn't mind the emperor corpse's stench. Instead, it felt that it was very fragrant. Roar! The pressure in the sky became denser and denser, and the multicolored snake seemed to have sensed the aura of death. It raised its head and furiously looked at the sky. It released a dragon's roar, and its body became very large. It was dozens of meters long, and in the end, it swallowed an emperor corpse into its stomach. Boom boom boom! Thunderclaps filled the sky while bolts of lightning intersected. They were so dense that they covered space and directly covered the entire area where the multicolored snake was. Boom! The multicolored snake soared into the sky, its enormous tail swinging towards the heavens. It opened its large mouth, and the emperor's order was formed. It swallowed half of the tribulation cloud in one gulp. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, countless tiny bolts of lightning pierced through the dragon's scales like steel needles and blasted into the colorful snake's flesh. The divine retribution was not meant for the colorful snake to transcend its tribulation, but to destroy its life force. Roar! The multicolored snake roared angrily. Its body twisted, and blood splattered in all directions. However, the boundless energy contained within the sovereign blood and sovereign corpse that it had devoured was forcibly mobilized by it, and it began to rapidly heal its injured body. The sovereign technique condensed, and the sovereign core formed. The contract between it and Yi Qinghan was directly torn apart by the sovereign technique, and it completely lost control. Roar! Whoosh! The enormous tail smashed into the countless bolts of lightning, and the colorful snake was blasted to the ground. The ground cracked, and the mountains and rivers shook. Crack, crack, crack. Countless bolts of lightning came one after another. They were only meant to kill, not to transcend the demon. Bang, bang, bang! The colorful snake was struck down to the Death Star again and again, and the Death Star was shattered into pieces. The lightning blasted into the ground, and the entire mountain was blasted into ruins. Yi Qinghan and the others fled to a corner and watched the colorful snake transcend its tribulation. Their eyes were filled with shock. This fellow had indeed suffered divine retribution. This divine retribution had completely surpassed Yi Qinghan's lightning tribulation and divine retribution. Perhaps even the heavens felt that the colorful snake had lost control and did not want it to continue living. If it devoured the sovereign corpse now, what would it devour next time? The heavens? Roar! The colorful snake was like a cockroach that could not be killed. It completely displayed Yi Qinghan's character. No matter how it was hit, it would crawl back up and continue to attack. After countless attacks, the tribulation cloud was continuously devoured. Yi Qinghan could not bear to see it being killed. He wielded the sovereign sword and attacked the tribulation cloud. The sword pierced through the clouds and shattered countless bolts of lightning. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Perhaps Yi Qinghan had also angered the divine retribution. The tribulation cloud turned black and covered the sky. The lightning tore through the darkness and brought him into the divine retribution. Boom! The sovereign sword roared and split the heavens and the earth. It carried with it an endless power that went against the laws of order to refine the lightning tribulation. His physical body was constantly being purified by the lightning and the divine retribution. Blood stained the firmament. Whoosh! The blue heavenly fire could burn anything, could devour the heavens and refine the sea. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Yi Qinghan rushed to the top of the colorful snake's head and roared, "I'll help you break through the lightning tribulation. You take care of the tribulation cloud." Boom! The sovereign sword soared into the sky. Yi Qinghan shattered the firmament with a palm strike. Flames burned the sky and went against the heavens. All the lightning tribulation was shattered by this palm strike. Boom! The colorful snake swung its huge tail and followed Yi Qinghan's footsteps toward the tribulation cloud. Bang! The tribulation cloud was shattered by this dragon tail, and the firmament seemed to have been smashed apart. Crack! The tribulation cloud dispersed. The colorful snake was also shaken to the ground by the divine retribution's final strike. The earth was torn apart. Yi Qinghan and the colorful snake rolled on the ground and crashed through several mountain ranges. They were battered and exhausted. This time, the colorful snake had learned its lesson. Its body was badly mangled and its bones were clearly visible. It was filled with sovereign techniques and might. This fellow was already at the level of the natural giant god and the Taigu emperor. Its combat strength was even more exaggerated than a Dao patroller. Roar! The colorful snake's body wriggled and transformed into a human. It was still that Chinibu youth, but its eyes were bloodshot and sinister. Its entire body was covered in blood and bones. The first thing it saw when it opened its eyes was Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's qi and blood were so vigorous that they were like peerless treasured medicines. They were enough to heal his injured body. Now that he was no longer restrained by the contract, he looked at Yi Qinghan with a strange gaze. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Yi Qinghan also felt the colorful snake's gaze. He slowly stood up with the sovereign sword in hand and stared at the colorful snake with an even more ferocious gaze. He slowly took off his mask, revealing a demonic face that was filled with a domineering might. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan didn't retreat. Instead, he took the initiative to walk toward the colorful snake. Their ferocious eyes met. Yi Qinghan's intimidating aura became fierce and murderous. It was as if he was suppressing the colorful snake with his aura. "You want to eat me?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The colorful snake was afraid of Yi Qinghan from the bottom of its bones. Even if its strength had broken through the limit and could swallow a Taigu emperor like a Dao patroller, it was still afraid of Yi Qinghan. Gulp! The colorful snake swallowed a mouthful of saliva and licked the corner of its mouth. Its fierce and sinister gaze gradually eased and calmed down. I misjudged you. Boss, I am Elegant Yi. Why would I eat you?" The colorful snake shrugged its shoulders and shrunk its head as it muttered softly. Yi Qinghan's gaze was too ferocious. Even though he didn't eat humans, his gaze was scarier than eating humans. The colorful snake understood him best. If it offended him, it would either kill him or wait for death. "Is that so? Are you the colorful snake or Elegant Yi now?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The colorful snake nodded and said flatteringly, "Elegant Yi, it must be Elegant Yi. Boss, in order to save me, you must have feelings for me. Do I look like a cold-blooded animal to you?" Snakes, weren't they cold-blooded animals? Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a devilish smile, but it made the colorful snake even more frightened. Once this guy smiled like this, nothing good would happen. "Elegant Yi, since your surname is Yi, I'll tell you, don't mess around. You know me. You can mess around with others, but messing around with me is too much of a waste of my nurturing and feelings for you," Yi Qinghan said quietly. Yes, boss, don't worry. Supreme Yi and I are your most loyal subordinates," the colorful snake said solemnly. There was no trace of its previous ferocity and viciousness. Yi Qinghan stared into the colorful snake's eyes and said as if he was looking down on it, "You can choose to leave me, but you can't choose to betray me. Now I'll give you a chance. Do you choose to leave or stay?" Leave, the colorful snake said while trembling. Yi Qinghan's devilish smile became even more obvious. He asked softly, "What did you say?" The colorful snake immediately straightened its body, allowing the blood to flow freely. It said loudly, "Leave? That's absolutely impossible. Once you're boss man, you'll be boss man forever." Chapter 2792. Leave. It was impossible for him to leave. Elegance Yi was unprecedentedly determined. Once he got on Yi Qinghan's boat, it was impossible for him to run away. Yi Qinghan saw his attitude and grinned evilly. "You've shattered my contract. I'm very scared now." Elegance Yi stretched his head out and said, "Boss, I accidentally shattered the contract just now. You can do it. Don't pity me. Ravage me to your heart's content and rearrange a contract that can't be shattered." He had already given up. If he betrayed Yi Qinghan now, he might not be able to live today. Following him, he still had some good days ahead of him. Therefore, he carried on Yi Qinghan's shameless spirit. It was better to live than to die. Yi Qinghan did not hold back. This guy was already out of control. Without the restriction of the contract, who knew what would happen after he was repaired? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom. This time, Yi Qinghan had used the anti-order principle to push back the great art of spiritual control. It was as if red lines had been inserted into Xiaosa's head. This time, those who didn't understand the anti-order principle wouldn't be able to help him break the contract, let alone himself. After a long time, Yi Qinghan patted Elegance Ye's head and said calmly, "Be good. From now on, if there's something for me to eat, there'll be something for you to eat. But can you not be so disgusting in the future? That corpse has been dead for so long that it stinks. You should King consider other people's feelings. Look at how much they've vomited. Who would dare to play with you in the future?" Elegance Yi looked at everyone with a flattering smile, scaring Zhu Hai and the others into running away. Only Yi Qinghan had a firm expression. He patted his chest and said, "Brother, no matter how disgusting you are, you're still my little brother. I'm your boss, and my boss is your big boss. We won't abandon you." Elegance Yi looked at everyone running away, then at Yi Qinghan's firm expression. He was very touched. "You're the best. The others are trash. Next time, if you piss me off, I'll eat you all." Elegance Ye's eyes flashed. He changed his attitude as fast as flipping through a book. Supreme Yi immediately smiled and said, "Just don't eat me. In the future, I'll be the emperor of all beasts, and you'll be the strongest protector left and right, the strongest in the universe. Understand?" Gracious Yi had no one to play with now. At this moment, he could only curry favor with Supreme Yi, so he would do whatever he said. Yi Qinghan sighed and said, "Xiao Sa, heal your wounds first. We have to hurry." The multicolored snake nodded and sat cross-legged on the ground to refine the remaining blood and bones in its body. Even the emperor bones were corroded, which showed how terrifying the acid in its stomach was. However, the corpse of the giant spirit emperor had been dead for too long, and the body itself was broken. After being exposed to the sun and wind, a lot of the essence in the body had been lost. Otherwise, the multicolored snake wouldn't have been able to swallow it so easily. The essence in the emperor bones was completely devoured by the multicolored snake. Its wounded body was healed, and its combat power was even stronger. It gave people a feeling that it was impossible to resist. If this guy were to become an emperor, who knew how strong he would be? He wouldn't be as strong as the emperor of all ages, but the Taigu emperor alone probably wouldn't be his opponent. At this time, Zhu Hai, Tang Chu, and the others didn't want to get close to the multicolored snake at all. As for Li Ying and the others, they only wanted to stay away from the multicolored snake because it gave people the feeling that it was extremely unsafe. The more they were afraid of Elegance Yi, the weirder Elegance Yi looked at them. It formed an aura of negative confrontation. Yi Qinghan had to mediate, which made everyone change their view of Elegance Yi. However, they still couldn't accept the fact that Elegance Yi ate people. Elegance Yi obviously didn't want to be isolated. When he saw that everyone had the intention to compromise, he immediately promised, "In the future, if I eat people and corpses again, I'll lose my teeth. Even if I want to eat, I'll eat behind your backs. That's fine, right?" Everyone was helpless. The person that Elegance Yi transformed into wasn't ugly. Other than the sinister and vicious eyes, everything else was considered handsome. But why did he have such a strong taste? But in any case, they didn't isolate Elegance Yi anymore. Everyone hurried on their way again. However, at this time, Yi Qinghan looked in the direction they came from and found that the qi and blood in his body were surging. His body that defied the laws of order was restless. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was the first to return. He flew through the air. Dozens of days later, a huge bright star appeared in front of them. The power there was anti-order, but it still wandered around without any laws. Boom! Yi Qinghan broke through the void and headed straight for the star. This star was his natal star, and it was also rushing towards him. Whoosh! Half a day later, Yi Qinghan arrived at the star. The feeling of being connected by blood made him stronger than ever. The power here was completely compatible with his flesh and blood. With a wave of his hand, he could destroy space-time and reverse the laws of order. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt that with the star, he could unleash the power of the Taigu Emperor. Ah! Yi Qinghan roared, his aura surging into the stars. At this time, Yi Qinghan trembled. He was glad that he didn't devour Yi Qinghan. Otherwise, if he cooperated with the star, wouldn't it be child's play to destroy him? Whoosh! Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground, devouring the power of the anti-order laws and refining his flesh and blood. His whole body seemed to be bathed in holy light, and colorful visions filled the air. Zhu Hai and the others didn't dare to approach the star because the closer they got, the more they found that they couldn't control their power. It was easy to lose power and die without even knowing how. Very far away, they camped on another dead star and waited silently. Looking at the star, it was completely different from the other dead stars. It constantly emitted a milky white holy light, while the other stars only emitted light at specific times. The life fluctuations of the star were very active, and it brought Yi Qinghan through the universe. Its speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the others had no choice but to follow. Yi Qinghan was using the star's power to create a true anti-order divine ability. Once it was created, he would be able to achieve an emperor's body and completely break through the golden holy body. He would then be able to fight the Taigu Emperor with his flesh and blood. Time flew by. Yi Qinghan danced on the vision, his palm technique stealing souls. His aura grew stronger and stronger, even breaking through the order, causing the people in the distance to tremble in fear. 30 years later, Yi Qinghan seemed to have sensed something and left the star. The star shattered the void and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. "Let's go!" Yi Qinghan waved his hand and brought everyone away, fleeing in the opposite direction of the star. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this time, Yi Qinghan was leading everyone away at extreme speed. Countless stars connected into a line around them, and the galaxy bloomed with light. However, a few days later, a person came here. The surroundings were filled with chaos, and his face couldn't be seen. However, his terrifying eyes stared at the surroundings, penetrating everything. I'm still one step too late. The star was too fast. It was the only star that could travel freely. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a star. That person wasn't interested in Yi Qinghan. The star was the most important. As long as the star wasn't destroyed, everything else was secondary. Therefore, he glanced at Yi Qinghan and disappeared without a trace. I feel like I'll die at any time if this continues. If I suddenly stop updating one day, please don't scold me. I'll definitely be hospitalized. Please recommend me and give me monthly tickets as a reward. Chapter 2793. Yi Qinghan led the others and fled into the distance after discovering the danger ahead of time. The life force of this alien star was too active. The immemorial emperor had discovered it but couldn't catch up to it. Yi Qinghan only had time to stay on his natal star for a few decades and only had time to consolidate his cultivation technique. He didn't even have time to take a look at his natal star. They fled across dozens of galaxies. Yi Qinghan led the group and landed on a life planet. Everyone restrained their aura and didn't dare to release the slightest bit of power. The current Yi Qinghan was deep and reserved. His battle prowess surpassed the Saint Blood Tribe's patriarch and the Dao Patrol. However, he couldn't be compared to peak existences like the giant spirit emperor. The main reason was that he didn't have enough time. If he could cultivate on his natal star for tens of thousands of years, it wouldn't be a problem. However, the enemy wouldn't give him too much time. Yi Qinghan hid in an ancient inn on one of the nascent stars and panted heavily. Even though his combat strength had increased by a lot, he still couldn't take it after fleeing so far with more than a dozen people. "Boss, who is chasing us?" The Saint Blood Tribe's leader, Xing Yan, asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan laid on a chair and took a long time to calm down. He shook his head and said, "I don't know. There's an 80% chance that it's the Hall Master of Elite Hall." Even my natal star is afraid of him. How strong is this Hall Master of Elite Hall? Zhu Hai asked with a frown. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and gave the final answer. He whispered, he might be slightly weaker than the immemorial emperor. However, he's definitely weaker than the immemorial Yinyang, immortal emperor, and Yen Zhu. However, he's stronger than the 12 immemorial emperors and much stronger than the Tao Patrol. There was a huge gap between the Taigu Emperor and the immemorial Yinyang, immortal emperor. The immemorial Yinyang, immortal emperor, was one of the immemorial emperors, while the Yen ancestor had almost reached the top. No one knew which of the two was stronger. However, the 12 immemorial emperors were obviously born as giant gods. The 12 immemorial emperors had probably existed since the birth of the universe. It would be difficult for anyone to surpass them through cultivation. As for the battle strength of Dao Sun and the others, they were only late-stage Taigu emperors. Their battle strength was far from Giant Spirit Emperor and the others. Previously, Yi Qinghan had a vague idea of their combat strength. But now that he was at the door, he could see it more clearly. Everyone was silent. The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall had actually surpassed the 12 immemorial emperors and the 6 Master God. What kind of cultivation was that? Could this group of youngsters kill him? Yi Qinghan looked at everyone's expression and his heart sank. He didn't dare to dampen their enthusiasm and immediately said, "Everyone, don't worry. The Yen tribe has set up a backup plan. This person's strength is monstrous. I'm afraid that he's only slightly weaker than the Hall Master of Elite Hall. Therefore, if that person doesn't appear, the Hall Master of Elite Hall won't dare to act recklessly. If he's restrained by us, the Yen tribe's backup plan will definitely use the fiercest attack to kill or severely injure him. Therefore, if that person doesn't appear, the Hall Master of Elite Hall won't dare to act recklessly." When Zhu Hai and the others heard this, they regained their confidence. With Xing Yan and the other brothers and sisters working together, we'll be able to fight against a Tao Patrol. With the 3 of you, we can kill a Tao Patrol. The rest will be left to the crazed manor and that backup plan. Chao Sa and I together might not be able to kill people like the 12 immemorial emperors, but we can hold them off for a while. Even if it's the Hall Master of Elite Hall, the 2 of us can delay him for a while. If we can distract him, the Yen tribe's backup plan will definitely take the opportunity to attack. It's hard to tell who will win. Besides, they might not be able to attack now. We still have time, Yi Qinghan said firmly. Liying glanced coldly at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "There's no need to cheer us up. If we were afraid of death, we wouldn't have come out to help you. Our ancestors were exiled from the immemorial immortal world and were killed. We also want revenge. If we don't even have this bit of conviction, how can we call ourselves the Taigu Emperor?" The others nodded and became firm in their conviction. Yi Qinghan looked at everyone. Some of them would become Tao Patrol Emperors, some of them might reach the level of the 12 immemorial emperors. However, there were also some who couldn't even touch the threshold of Tao Patrol Emperors. "Let's rest for 3 months before returning to the immortal world," Yi Qinghan said solemnly. Everyone nodded and had a simple meal before going into seclusion to recuperate. The immortal world had settled down for about 10,000 years. Crazed manner had advanced by leaps and bounds. Many people hoped to see Yi Qinghan come out of seclusion during the 10,000-year ceremony. After not seeing Yi Qinghan for 10,000 years, people's hearts wavered. On this day, the 10,000-year ceremony was about to begin. Zhang Fan was in charge of the 10,000-year ceremony when he received news from various places. Looking at the news, he frowned and felt anger in his heart. Soon after, Zhang Fan brought the news to the military. Chess Sage, Yen Ao, and Huang Peng were all stationed here. Today was also the day of the military's meeting. After all, the 10,000-year ceremony of the immortal world would definitely cause chaos if Yi Qinghan didn't appear. The army had to be prepared in advance. Zhang Fan brought the news to the meeting hall and placed it in front of everyone. He scolded, "This bunch of bastards! They fled into the ocean during a war, and came back to snatch back their territories during a peaceful time. They even clashed with the natives. Those who fled back then were generally stronger and the natives weren't a match for them. They caused the heavens to be angry and resentful. Now they actually extended their hands into some medicinal fields." Yan Ao and the rest received the news in astonishment. After reading through it, they realized that many people fled into the depths of the ocean during the war. However, a portion of them returned to the immortal world later on. However, there was still a large portion of them who didn't manage to return in time. Now that they had returned, they wanted to take back their territories and were even asking for more. Yan Ao rubbed his eyes and asked indifferently, "How many of them are there?" Chess Sage and the rest also looked at Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan shook his head and said helplessly, "There are a lot of them. Most importantly, many of them were from the Big Boss Club back then. Their hearts are united. If we forcefully suppress them, I'm afraid they might join hands." Yan Ao sneered, "Back then, they didn't do anything. Now, they want to share the spoils of war. What wishful thinking." Chess Sage sneered and said indifferently, "Pacify them first. It's best not to see blood on the eve of the ceremony. Once the ceremony is over, kill them all. Leave no one alive." Hiss! Zhang Fan sucked in a breath of cold air. He realized that Chess Sage was really ruthless. A few hundred big bosses and the families behind them were also a very powerful force. Agreed. Yan Ao raised his hand without hesitation. Huang Ping raised his hand in agreement. Di Longtian represented the ancient massacre god and also raised his hand in agreement. If those people were obedient, they could still be kept alive. But since they weren't, they deserved to be killed. Yun Rui was a native back then and was chosen by Lu Outyan. Now that he was a general, he understood that the natives weren't reliable. Therefore, he agreed without hesitation. Lu Outyan was also a ruthless person. As the saying goes, merciful people don't lead the army. His attitude was even firmer. All the big bosses of the military agreed to kill after the ceremony to establish their might. At this moment, Zhang Fan knew that the fate of these people would be very miserable. They might even be exterminated. Then what about the children of the families or sects? We can't kill the children, right? Zhang Fan reminded. Yan Ao sighed and said calmly, "Leave the women and children. Crazy Manor isn't a murderous demon. Leave them a job but forbid them from cultivating." "Thank you, Student Tang, for joining Tyrannical Alliance. Crazy Manor has another big boss. This Student Tang is an old brother that I have been following since I wrote covering Immortal Hand. Monthly votes." Chapter 2794. Don't forget to vote after watching. At this moment, the everlasting celestial nation was no longer as peaceful as it used to be. The big shots who left back then took advantage of the fact that the land belonged to them. They cried and begged, causing a huge ruckus, tying Quang Manor to the war chariot of morality, wanting Quang Manor to give them a large portion of the herb field. Although the natives who stayed behind were weak, they refused to budge an inch. This was not only their territory but also their job. If the Quang Manor gave the herb fields to these people, they would have to work for them. At that time, their salaries would be undetermined, and they might not even be treated as adults by the other party. One side gathered, demanding Quang Manor to return their ancestral land, while the other side protested, demanding Quang Manor to refuse. Both sides often clashed, and gradually, bloodshed began. Among the hundreds of big shots, there were both the younger generation and the older generation. They displayed their shamelessness to the extreme. Some of the older generation even began to ask Zhang Fan and the other experts of Jingfan Mountain for help, hoping that they would speak up and help them get their ancestral land back. Zhang Fan looked at their faces with disdain, especially when he begged them to stay back, but they didn't care at all. Now, they even had the gall to ask him for help. You won't even know how you died. Zhang Fan sneered in his heart as he watched them fooling around from afar. The Celestial Nation ceremony was in preparation, but judging by the time, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to make it back. Jian Qinxue was now overseeing the sky-gazing mountain, and the capital was set to be the heaven-suppressing palace. The entire heaven-suppressing palace was now luxurious, and the north town was filled with people. Many experts came to pay their respects, hoping to witness the majesty of the Celestial Nation's monarch. Only Jian Qinxue and Emperor Yi knew that Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to make it back in time. She had the pouch given to her by Yi Qinghan, and she might be able to use it in the upcoming Celestial Nation ceremony. About a month later, everything was prepared, and the ceremony was about to begin. Red lanterns were hung up high, and the entire everlasting Celestial Nation was in a festive mood. However, there was a group of people who weren't afraid of death. Back then, the group of people from the Big Shots Club had banded together to claim a share of the herb field. Moreover, they had taken advantage of the grand ceremony to humiliate the crazed manor and ruin their reputation in front of countless people in the Immortal Nation. After all, the Immortal Nation grand ceremony would definitely be broadcasted live to the entire undying immortal realm. Moreover, it would be broadcast to all major cities for free. A white-haired old man looked at the crowd and sneered, "Let's wait for the broadcast to start and the ceremony to begin. We will condemn Quang Manor outside the heaven-suppressing palace. We will take away their ancestral land and take away their lives. Let's see if Quang Manor will return our land to us. Will we anger the crazy manor?" A middle-aged man asked in a deep voice. "Ha ha ha!" The white-haired elder laughed and said, "The law can't punish too many people. Besides, we're not to be trifled with. There are hundreds of big shots, and 3 of them are in their 4th state. So what if we offend the Quang Manor? Does the Quang Manor dare to kill us in front of the entire world and admit to our crimes? Which piece of land should we choose? I'm afraid we have to be careful after offending the Quang Manor this time. If we can work together to claim a piece of land, we can camp together and protect each other." The group of big shots were discussing seriously. However, the Quang Manor looked amusing as the Quang Manor had no intention of letting them live. "We want the Void Ridge. That is a piece of land with good feng shui." The leading old man was excited, as if he had his eyes on that piece of land for a long time. He said loudly, "The herb fields in the Void Ridge produce high-quality herbs. We will take the Void Ridge." Soon, the group of people came to a conclusion. Among the 320 big shots, some were newly ascended while some were older. All of them had decent combat prowess, and they worked together to move into the heaven-suppressing palace during the grand ceremony. The whereabouts of this group of people had long been known by the Quang Manor. Even their discussions had been received by the Quang Manor. However, Yen Ao and the Chess Saint did not want to kill anyone during the grand ceremony. Thus, they chose to be patient. On the 2nd day, the heaven and earth rumbled, the myriad of skills roared, the sound of zither reverberated throughout the river, and the living beings cheered. Jian Qinshu appeared as the Empress, presiding over the grand ceremony on behalf of Yi Qinghan, while Emperor Yi, Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and Bai Shaoxing sat at the side like the Empress. Many were surprised to see Jian Qinshu occupying the position of Empress. They all thought that Emperor Yi was the rightful Empress. Only the older generation of the Quang Manor knew that Jian Qinshu was irreplaceable, not even Emperor Yi. Hua. Jian Qinshu wore a snow-white robe and a golden crown. With the immemorial yin-yang sword in her hand, she slowly sat at the main seat in the heaven-suppressing palace's plaza. The live projection was activated and the scene was projected out from every angle. The older generation of the Quang Manor, other than Yen Yunbei, had all returned to their positions. The district master and the natives were all appointed as officials, while the chess saint was appointed as the commander of the army alongside Yen Ao. The experts were all gathered in the heaven-suppressing palace. My lord is in closed-door cultivation, and has no time to attend the ceremony. I, the Empress, will be here to share your burden. Today, I announce that the Kwang Manor will be pardoned and the people will celebrate together. I hope that the Kwang Manor will never wither away. Hua! The war banner of the Kwang Manor fluttered in the wind, while the banners of the ancient massacre god and heaven-conquering camp stood beside it. Roar! The experts were shocked and they all cheered. Countless armies responded and raised their morale to the highest level. Many of the celebrations had yet to begin and the group of experts that escaped showed up. The old man in the fourth state, Yang Wei, stood out and stared straight at Jian Chenxue. Empress Mother, we plead on behalf of the heavens. We hope that the Celestial Empire will return our ancestral lands to us. Such a vast celestial empire, invading our ancestral lands and expanding our territory, don't tell me you don't want the people of the world to continue living? Yang Wei spoke in a solemn tone, trying to sound imposing. The crowd quieted down and they all stared at Yang Wei and the other experts angrily. Jian Chenxue stared at the crowd. She was trying to intimidate the world, but she could not intimidate these greedy people. Who are you? When did the Kwang Manor invade your ancestral lands? Back then, the Kwang Manor opened up the herb fields with everyone's consent, but I did not see any of you. Jian Chenxue's face was solemn and she was neither happy nor angry. We were in the depths of the sea and did not have time to return. Yang Wei argued and did not back down. Jian Chenxue smiled and asked, when the Kwang Manor led the trillions of people to fight against Class 1 Hall and seek peace, where were you? Lingering at death's door and escaping overseas? Now that peace has arrived, you came back to snatch the spoils of war and even caused trouble during the Kwang Manor's ceremony. Do you want the trillions of people to support you? Do you think the people of the world are fools or that you are too smart? We all have the desire to escape. We temporarily gave up on our ancestral lands, but it does not mean that we will give it up forever. Now that we are back, the ancestral lands should be returned to us. Yang Wei said solemnly. Jian Chenxue's fingertips moved the scabbard and said indifferently, "All right, I will bury all of you in your ancestral lands. I will not let you be buried half a step away from your ancestral land." Whoosh! Jian Chenxue waved her hand mercilessly. So what if it was a ceremony? Capture all of them and choose a day to behead them. Leave no one alive. Jian Chenxue was even more ruthless. If she did not take the opportunity to suppress them now and Yi Qinghan did not return, who knew how much trouble he would cause? The chess saint's pupils shrank. He thought that he was calm and ruthless enough, but today, he realized that the people around Yi Qinghan were all ruthless and ruthless. Hua! The Kwang Manor's inner sect army drew their swords and trapped the 300 experts in the center. Yen Ao even personally took action and suppressed the 3/4 state expert. The others did not even dare to resist. Clowns, you deserve to die. Chapter 2795. Jian Chenxue showed no mercy when she wanted to kill them in front of everyone. After detaining all of them, she looked straight ahead and said in a deep voice, "These people who only know how to plunder without giving anything in return should not be allowed to live. They not only want to plunder the resources that Kwang Manor exchanged with their lives, but they also want to trample on all the people's hard work. The herb field was cultivated by countless people and Kwang Manor together. No one can plunder it. If you kill them, are you worried that Kwang Manor will hurt you in the future? Of course not. Kwang Manor will never wither." All the people cheered. Now, they not only enjoyed peace but also equality. In the past, they had to kneel down when they saw the big shot. Now, even if they saw the fourth state, they could speak frankly and communicate. In the past, this was something that they would not have dared to think about. Yang Wei and the others were drenched in cold sweat, terrified and uneasy. Jian Qinshu looked down at the crowd and said in a dignified voice, "You underestimate the dignity and prestige of Kuang Manor. Kuang Manor treats every one of our people well, but not our enemies. Yang Wei, do you think that Kuang Manor does not know that you are secretly discussing how to make the Celestial Empire lose face during the ceremony and encroach on the Void Ridge's herb field? We can defeat Class 1 Hall, not to mention clowns like you. We don't want to kill you today because we don't want to ruin the solemnity of the ceremony. Arrest them all. 1 month after the ceremony, execute them all." Jian Qinshu waved her hand mercilessly. "What? No. Spare us." More than 300 people screamed in fear, but they were all suppressed in the blink of an eye and thrown into prison. At the same time, the families and sects behind these 300 big shots were all detained by the army. Kuang Manor would never give its enemies a chance. The ceremony continued. This scene did not even affect the mood of the others. Instead, they felt that these people were ridiculous. They actually wanted to join forces to create a small celestial empire and snatch the Void Ridge. What a fool's dream! The ceremony was crazy, but it was even crazier in the ancient immortal world. In 10,000 years, Class 1 Hall had opened up a large area of mountains and rivers, dismantled all the killing restrictions, and arranged for everyone to enter the ancient immortal world. However, Class 1 Hall wantonly recruited geniuses, from the children to the big shots, and began to cultivate them crazily. They only needed true geniuses, monstrous geniuses. The death rate of missions assigned to them was extremely high, but it was also because of this that a large number of geniuses were born. The children from the Kuang Manor had already grown up, but some of them had also been eliminated. Only a dozen or so people were left. At this moment, Yan Yunbei was hiding in the ancient immortal world and training everywhere. He was bitterly cultivating secret techniques and also seeking the Tao. His combat strength was increasing day by day. He traveled to dangerous places all year round to help those children survive. Yi Tong, the son of Void God Yi, had now grown into a big boy. In just 10,000 years, he had successfully stepped into the fourth form and survived countless calamities. He was highly regarded by Class 1 Hall and became the inheritor of Class 1 Hall's imperial weapon, becoming the new Saber Emperor. No one would think that Yi Tong was Yi Qinghan's grandson. Moreover, Yi Tong did not have the Yan clan's bloodline. The inherited bloodline in his bones was too thin. Yi Qinghan's Yan clan's bloodline was previously stimulated by the Yan Emperor's blood. Therefore, Yi Qinghan himself was a rank 1 mortal. No one would be able to find out that Yi Tong was Yi Qinghan's grandson. Lin Shukong's son, Lin Mo, was a very delicate young man. He looked very weak. Back then, he had joined Class 1 Hall's heaven as a beggar. He had a clean background and was highly regarded by Class 1 Hall. He became the last disciple of the Tao Patrol and received far more resources than the other members of Class 1 Hall. The missions were very dangerous, but the Tao Patrol would secretly follow him every time. However, Lin Mo had never disappointed him. His sharp sword Tao shocked the Tao Patrol. That was the sword intent that burst out from his bones, on par with the heavens. Innate sword bone. These two people were the representatives of Kuang Manor. Now, Yan Yunbei would contact the remaining group of people once every 1,000 years to strengthen their belief. However, at first glance these children were very reliable. They had strong wills and would not regret even if they died. Of the children sent by Kuang Manor, other than those who had died in battle, the rest had all become outstanding members of Class 1 Hall. Some were even chosen by the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. On this day, Yan Yunbei stood in the distance and silently looked at Class 1 Hall's heaven. It was located deep in the mountains. Only 1/3 of the people were qualified to wear a mask. Those who could wear a mask were all recognized by Class 1 Hall and had very high combat strength. I really don't know if some children will lose control and become a direct descendant of Class 1 Hall. Yan Yunbei was not sure. After all, there were too many uncontrollable factors. Whoosh, whoosh, a figure passed through the mountain range. It was a place that had yet to be developed. Forbidden areas were everywhere. Very few people would appear here. The new generation Saber Emperor Yi Tong stepped inside with his saber in hand. Every day, he would go to the depths to gain experience. This was something that everyone knew. Patrols had also followed him many times, but they didn't find anything. Therefore, at this moment there was even less of a doubt. Looking at Yi Tong entering the depths, Yan Yunbei quietly hid in the dark and followed Yi Tong silently. He was also secretly observing if anyone was following him. Yi Tong walked all the way into the depth. First he trained for a while. Then, he turned and walked towards a place that no one had set foot in before. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei appeared beside Yi Tong. The dagger in his hand slashed and appeared on Yi Tong's neck. He said softly, "Don't move." Yi Tong's body trembled. Before the saber in his hand could release saber intent, the dagger was already close to his throat. "I said don't move." Yan Yunbei waved his hand and pressed down the saber. He reached out and took off the mask. He found that this person was not Yi Tong. He took Yi Tong's mask and saber. Poochie! Yan Yunbei did not hesitate to slit Yi Tong's throat. Boundless killing intent penetrated Yi Tong's limbs and bones. The saber fell to the ground. Then, he put Yi Tong's mask back on and quietly disappeared into the forest. In a deep forest, Yan Yunbei was nervous. Someone actually pretended to be Yi Tong and came to meet him. Could it be that Yi Tong was exposed? Not long after Yan Yunbei left, the patrols appeared. He observed from afar. Yan Yunbei just killed this person when he got close. There was no communication. This person is here to kill Yi Tong? The patrol's eyes flashed coldly. He was also suspicious. If this person was in contact with Yi Tong, he should not have killed him immediately. The patrol's brows furrowed. He recalled the information of Kwang Manor and thought to himself, this person's aura is restrained. He is in charge of assassinations. He should be Kwang Manor's older generation, Yan Yunbei. I did not expect that someone from Kwang Manor would sneak into the ancient immortal world. The heavens are really helping me. Whoosh! The patrols took the mask and saber and returned to Class 1 Hall's heaven. Yi Tong was cultivating in seclusion. At this moment the door was forced open. The patrols appeared in the room. Kwang Manor's Yan Yunbei has appeared, the patrols said coldly. His eyes were staring at Yi Tong's eyes. Yi Tong was shocked, but his face was expressionless. He asked, "Who is Yan Yunbei?" "The person who is going to kill you. Today, I sent someone to wear your clothes and mask and bring your saber. The other party followed and killed the person who disguised as you without hesitation. He did not even ask a question. It seems like this person wants to assassinate a genius of Class 1 Hall. So, I want to use you as bait to lure him out," the patrol said calmly. Yi Tong pretended to be shocked and asked, "Is this person very strong?" The patrols looked at Yi Tong's expression and nodded. "Very strong. There is no one in the older generation of Kwang Manor who is not strong. He can kill without spilling blood. So, I want to capture him alive. I want to know if there is anyone else from Kwang Manor who has sneaked into the ancient immortal world." Whoosh! Yi Tong stood up and bowed with cupped fists. "I am willing to serve Lord Patrols with my life. This time, I will personally lure Yan Yunbei. With my battle strength, I can at least hold him back for a while. When the time comes, Lord can join forces with the other disciples of Class 1 Hall and block him somewhere. We can catch him like a turtle in a jar." The patrols nodded in satisfaction and praised, "Good. as expected of the new Saber Emperor that I have my eyes on. If we can capture Yen Yunbei alive this time, you will have the greatest merit. I will recommend you to the Hall Master to cultivate the real Taigu Emperor's technique. Thank you, Lord Patrols. I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Yi Tong was determined. Yen Yunbei, please recommend me to save my life. Recommend me. Chapter 2796. Thank you, Huang Guolin. Thank you for your support. The ancient immortal world was full of danger. The patrol was not confident in finding Yen Yunbei, who was good at hiding. A large number of Class 1 Hall disciples went out and started to cast a net to lure Yen Yunbei out. It was Yen Yunbei's first time facing so many Class 1 Hall disciples. It was obvious that they were here for him. Yi Tong appeared with a saber in hand. He wandered around, but the Class 1 Hall disciples kept circling around him, forming an encirclement. However, there was still a large number of openings for him to enter. As an assassin, Yen Yunbei was best at observation. He quickly determined that Yi Tong was the bait, he was the prey, and the patrol was the hunter. Does the patrol think I'm here to assassinate the strongest disciple of Class 1 Hall? Yen Yunbei guessed. He used someone else to disguise as Yi Tong to lure me. He must be suspicious of Yi Tong. It seems that if I don't kill him once, it will be difficult to get rid of his suspicion. Yen Yunbei knew that once he appeared, it would be difficult to escape. However, he had to take action. Whoosh, whoosh. Yen Yunbei did not directly attack Yi Tong. Instead, he chose a powerful Class 1 Hall disciple from the periphery. This person was definitely not an expert from Crazy Manor. Silently, Yen Yunbei pounced. With a flash of his dagger, endless laws of order destroyed everything. He directly slashed the neck of the Class 1 Hall disciple. Poochie! Blood splattered everywhere as the corpse fell to the ground. Whoosh! After killing one person, Yen Yunbei quickly fled. He constantly changed his direction and left the scene. He did not even think about killing a second person. The patrol did not react in time and allowed Yen Yunbei to escape. He could not help but be furious. He began to mobilize the previous generation of Class 1 Hall disciples. These people were already very strong. Even if Yen Yunbei wanted to kill them, he had to fight for a while. This time, the killing formation he set up was even more dangerous. Yen Yunbei took the risk and came again. He killed another young Class 1 Hall disciple and left again after he succeeded. He killed others to divert the patrol's attention. The patrol had observed that Yi Tong was very strange every time he went out. That was why he ordered someone to disguise as Yi Tong. He did not expect to attract an assassin from Crazy Manor. After several attempts, Yen Yunbei succeeded 3 times and failed twice. However, he left calmly each time. The patrol could not find any trace of Yen Yunbei at all. His strength was close to that of the Emperor Dao. He came and went without a trace. He did not have a fixed target to kill. Whoever he caught would be unlucky. It all depended on who would be alone. This time, the Dao patrol ordered Yi Tong to go alone. He didn't allow anyone else to follow him. Yi Tong was ordered to go deep into the enemy's territory by himself while he followed him in the dark. Moreover, he followed from a very far distance to see if Yen Yunbei would appear. Yi Tong didn't refute. No matter what, if Yen Yunbei appeared today, he had to kill him. If he didn't kill Yen Yunbei, then Yen Yunbei would kill him. For the great plan of 10,000 years, sacrifices were inevitable. Whoosh! Yi Tong slowly walked into the depths, and he got further and further away from Class 1 Hall's training grounds. Yen Yunbei knew that the opportunity to clear Yi Tong's name had come. A ferocious glint flashed across Yen Yunbei's eyes as he approached quietly. He hid in an ancient tree and observed the fluctuations of Emperor Qi in the distance. However, he did not move at all. Whoosh! Tap tap tap, Yi Tong moved forward slowly. The saber in his hand vibrated continuously, emitting a murderous aura. Soon, Yi Tong appeared under the tree where Yan Yunbei was hiding. He did not see Yan Yunbei, but Yan Yunbei was watching him. Whoosh! Hum! Yan Yunbei's attack was ruthless. A cold glint flashed and he appeared behind Yi Tong. His hand was already at Yi Tong's neck. Boom! Yi Tong reacted quickly. The saber in his hand collided with the dagger, causing sparks to fly. However, Yan Yunbei definitely had more than one killer move. He changed his moves quickly. The dagger appeared in his left hand and he attacked Yi Tong from the other side. Poochie! The dagger cut through Yi Tong's shoulder. It was only a few millimeters away from his neck. Yan Yunbei did not show any mercy. Boom! Yi Tong was even more ruthless. He exchanged injury for injury and attacked Yan Yunbei's left arm with his saber. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei's left arm was almost cut off. The blade cut through his battle robe and blood appeared. Bang! Yan Yunbei was extremely ruthless. He kicked Yi Tong's chest and sent him flying. The dagger pierced through the void and went straight for Yi Tong's head. Dao Patroller stood in the distance and did not prepare to attack. He wanted to see if Yan Yunbei really wanted to kill him. However, Yan Yunbei had made a total of 3 moves, and each of them was fatal. There were a few times when Yi Tong's throat was almost pierced. If he did not attack now, Yi Tong would definitely die. Hum! Boom! The Emperor's sword pierced through the clouds and attacked from the void. It was as fast as lightning. Dao Patroller intercepted Yan Yunbei's fatal attack and saved Yi Tong. Yan Yunbei's dagger clashed with the tip of Dao Patroller's sword. In a flash, he used the momentum to escape. His figure flashed and disappeared. Swoosh! 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 Yan Yunbei escaped, but Dao Patroller chased after him. Dao Patroller's sword pierced through the void and continuously destroyed ancient trees. Yan Yunbei was forced to escape in a sorry state. There were a few times when his blood almost dyed the void red. There was a cliff that was extremely deep. It was filled with thick fog. When Yan Yunbei saw that Dao Patroller was about to catch up, he jumped into the cliff without hesitation. He used the thick fog to escape. His escape technique was extremely strange. Dao Patroller seemed to know this place better. The corner of his mouth raised into a cold smile. You are seeking your own death. You don't even know where this place is. How dare you barge in? Whoosh! Dao Patroller's figure flashed and actually followed him in. There was actually a paradise in the depth. An old man was sitting cross-legged inside. He had a fat head and big ears. He was obviously different from humans. He was extremely ugly. The left half of his body was almost chopped off, but he was still alive. It was extremely tragic. This person was one of the 12 immemorial emperors, heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor. He was an immortal emperor. He had existed since the birth of the universe and was still alive. Back then, when he fought with Yen Zhu, he was still alive. Heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor was actually hiding here to recuperate. Unfortunately, Yan Yunbei actually entered the depths of this place. Once Yan Yunbei entered, he felt that something was wrong. The Emperor's aura here was much denser than Dao Patroller's. The smell of blood was very strong and evil aura filled the air. It was as if this place was another world. When he reached the depths of the cliff, there was no longer fog below. Instead, it was a path that led to the heavens. There were mountains and forests everywhere. Immortal treasures and godly medicines filled the air. Yan Yunbei's gaze swept past an ancient palace in the distance. Heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor caught a glimpse and almost killed Yan Yunbei's soul. Boom! Yan Yunbei fell to the ground. His soul was in pain, but he endured it and quickly escaped into the depths. However, Heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor had no intention of chasing after him. Xiao! The Dao Patroller stepped through the air and cupped his fists. Senior Shocking, Junior was ordered by the Hall Master to capture a thief. He has already fallen into this place. Please tell me his whereabouts. Heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were as big as fists. They flashed with an ominous glint as he stared at the Tao Patroller. You used the name of the Hall Master to disturb this Emperor's cultivation time and time again. Do you think this Emperor doesn't dare to kill you? Heaven-shocking Taigu Emperor coldly shouted. His voice was like thunder exploding in the valley. It shook the Tao Patroller until his heart hurt and his face turned pale. The Tao Patroller's expression changed greatly. He quickly bowed and said, Junior doesn't dare. This time, the enemy is the helper of the Yen clan. He broke into this place. I was worried that he would sneak attack you, so I rashly chased after him. I wanted to capture him so that he wouldn't disturb your cultivation. Chapter 2797. None of the 12 immemorial emperors were to be trifled with. To put it simply, other than the monster Yen Zhu, no one had managed to surpass this level of cultivation. They were the 12 immemorial emperors and the 6 immemorial master gods. The heaven-shaking immemorial emperor was shorter than the giant spirit emperor by half, but he was still taller than the average person. He looked like a half-human, half-beast. His forehead was bulging, his eyes were as big as fists, and his big ears could hear things from 1,000 miles away. Even experts like Yen Yunbei who were hiding could hear something strange. However, he was very dissatisfied with the Tao Patrol and did not like him, so he did not want to help him capture people. He only said coldly, "Get out, there is no one you want here." The Tao Patrol's expression changed. He did not expect Taigu Emperor to throw a tantrum. He quickly bowed and said, "Sir, this is the Hall Master's order, Hua." Heaven's startling immemorial emperor slowly stood up. Half of his body was gone, and his ribs were clearly visible. His eyes were filled with disdain as he stared at Tao Patrol. He licked his lips and said coldly, "You want to use him to pressure me? If it was not for the Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor, I would have killed him right now. I am now living like a ghost, thanks to him. You have already disturbed me 3 times. There will not be a 4th time. Are you going to get out or not?" Hua! The Tao Patrol did not hesitate and left the valley. He did not dare to use the Hall Master of the Elite Hall to pressure Taigu Emperor. After a while, Taigu Emperor's ears twitched, and he quickly identified Yen Yunbei's location. Hua! A big hand pierced through the void and forced Yen Yunbei out of the alternate space. He waved his hand and caught Yen Yunbei. Taigu Emperor did not make a move, but once he made a move, it was earth-shattering. Yen Yunbei was confident that he could fight against the Tao Patrol. However, he did not even have the chance to fight back against the Taigu Emperor. He was directly caught in the big hand. Yen Yunbei was shocked. Seeing Taigu Emperor at such a close distance made his hair stand on end. The pressure was so strong that he did not dare to look directly at him. The 12 immemorial emperors were indeed not easy to deal with. "You are not from the Yen clan." The Taigu Emperor's thunderous voice made Yen Yunbei's ears hurt. Yen Yunbei took in a deep breath. He was completely unable to move Mo-Wuji's 5 fingers. He could only reply truthfully, "I'm not from the Yen clan. The Yen clan has already been exterminated. I'm merely a person from the undying, immortal world." The Taigu Emperor swung his hand and smashed Yen Yunbei into the ground, shattering the earth. Poof! Yen Yunbei's body twisted in pain. His internal organs were almost shattered. Class 1 Hall has become yours, and it's all because of your selfish desires. It's no longer for the glory of the ancient gods and ancient immortals. It's also not to prevent the ancient gods and ancient immortals from declining. The Taigu Emperor roared. Although Yen Yunbei was in pain, he could hear the other party's dissatisfaction with Class 1 Hall's Hall Master. He immediately struggled to stand up and reminded in a deep voice, "Lord Taigu Emperor has not gone out for many years. You don't understand the outside world at all. Now that the ancient gods and ancient immortals have already declined, even the Emperor's inheritance has declined. Class 1 Hall is fighting everywhere. Even the inheritors of the Emperor's weapon can suppress the inheritors of the Emperor's inheritance. They are flaunting their power and berating the inheritors of the Emperor's inheritance. Boom! The Taigu Emperor was furious. He smashed the rocks with his hand, causing the entire valley to shake. His eyes were fixed on Yan Yunbei. Are you serious? The Taigu Emperor asked coldly. Yan Yunbei took a deep breath. He knew that his chance had come. He immediately said, yes. For his own selfish desires, the Emperor's inheritance was forced to kneel to a divine general. I saw it with my own eyes. Impudent! The Taigu Emperor was furious. This was a great humiliation to the Taigu Emperor. Even if the inheritors of the Emperor's inheritance were not from the Taigu clan, they could not tolerate it. Yan Yunbei immediately bowed and said, Junior feels that the Emperor's inheritance is not worth it. The 12 emperors and the 6 great gods of the immemorial age fought to the death for Class 1 Hall. In the end, the Emperor's inheritance's status was even lower than someone that the Emperor's inheritance could use in the eyes of the Emperor's inheritance. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Taigu Emperor was burning with anger. He waved his hand, and his life-bound heaven staff shot out from Class 1 Hall's heavenly hall. In the blink of an eye, it tore through the void and appeared in the cliff. Boom! The heaven staff became longer and thicker. It ruthlessly stabbed into the ground beside the Taigu Emperor. This was how the Emperor's weapon looked like when it was beside the 12 emperors of the immemorial age. Divine light flowed and soared into the sky. Lord Taigu Emperor, Class 1 Hall's Hall Master is very powerful now, and you are half crippled. You can't recklessly settle the score with them. Even if the Hall Master is willing to compromise, it will only be a temporary measure. She will not care about the Emperor's inheritance in her heart. Yan Yunbei lowered his voice and reminded him. The Taigu Emperor stared at Yan Yunbei. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He asked in a deep voice, Are you willing to submit to me? I will teach you the real Emperor's technique of the 12 immemorial emperors. Yan Yunbei was stunned. He asked curiously, Could it be that the Emperor's technique of Class 1 Hall is not real? The Taigu Emperor sneered and said disdainfully, Who doesn't know how to keep a trump card? The techniques of Class 1 Hall can only unleash 30% of the Emperor's technique's power. Why would we, the 12 emperors and the 6 immemorial gods, show our fatal weakness to others? Even the secret techniques of our clansmen are not complete. The Taigu Emperor was too confident. He thought that he was immortal and did not need a real inheritor. But he did not expect that the Taigu Emperor would die. Yan Yunbei took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee. This junior is willing to take the heaven-shocking Emperor as his master. It was better to live than to die. This was the rule of the crazy manor. How could he be stronger than the 12 emperors of the immemorial age? Yan Yunbei obviously would not die heroically. You have learned the heaven-shocking staff technique. I only want you to do 2 things for me. First, go to the ancient immortal world's Sky Ascension Peak and retrieve a heavenly medicine to help me recover my strength. Second, accompany me to kill the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. The Taigu Emperor was silent. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He was unhappy that the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall had taken Class 1 Hall as his personal property. Now, there was one more thing that he could not tolerate. Forcing the inheritor of an emperor to kneel to a god general was a disgrace. Unforgivable. The Taigu Emperor had his pride as a Taigu Emperor. How could Yan Yunbei not agree? He immediately nodded and said, This disciple is willing to do his best to retrieve the heavenly medicine and kill the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. I am willing to die as a pawn. Come sit. I will teach you the real Taigu Emperor's technique. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei sat cross-legged on the ground with his back facing the Taigu Emperor. Whoosh! The Taigu Emperor waved his hand. The Emperor's technique enveloped Yan Yunbei. Countless runes appeared in Yan Yunbei's mind. The Emperor's staff technique was attached. A small person danced in Yan Yunbei's mind. As expected, it was much more powerful than the staff technique of the inheritor of the heaven-shocking staff technique outside. Endless Emperor's technique appeared in Yan Yunbei's mind. It was difficult to understand and gave him a splitting headache. After a long time, the Taigu Emperor let go. Yan Yunbei was still in pain. He could not bear such a majestic emperor's technique wreaking havoc in his mind. After half a day, Yan Yunbei finally recovered. The Taigu Emperor said coldly, "Do you know why I chose you?" Yan Yunbei obviously did not know. However, he could see that the Taigu Emperor had no other choice. First, my clansmen were detained by the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. I can't trust anyone. Second, you cultivate assassination techniques and your whereabouts are unpredictable. You can help me save my clansmen. Third, there are experts guarding Sky Ascension Peak. Without some ability you can't go up. Requesting recommendation votes. Requesting monthly vote. Today's update is a bit slow. However, I really tried my best. After 6 days of super intense writing, I almost passed out yesterday. Chapter 2798. Yan Yunbei had profited from his misfortune and obtained Shocking Taigu Emperor's inheritance instead. Shocking Taigu Emperor couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't find a second person apart from Yan Yunbei. Since Yan Yunbei dared to go against Class 1 Hall, he definitely wasn't afraid of death. Thus, he couldn't force him or place restrictions on him. Restrictions couldn't control those who weren't afraid of death, only those who were. Clearly, Yan Yunbei wasn't afraid of death. Under the personal guidance of Shocking Taigu Emperor, Yan Yunbei cultivated the Shocking Emperor's staff art much faster than the Emperor's inheritance. No one understood the principles of the Shocking Emperor's staff art better than Shocking Taigu Emperor. Under his guidance, even those with a bit of talent would improve by leaps and bounds, let alone Yan Yunbei. At this time, the Celestial Kingdom ceremony had ended. The 300 members of the Big Shot Club were all killed and buried under the herb field. Their blood was used to irrigate the fields, causing those who wanted to take advantage of the situation to give up completely. They were also more determined to follow Crazy Manor from the start. If you don't accompany the sunset, who are you to rise again from the east? Crazy Manor wanted to tell the world that if you want to enjoy, you have to pay the price first. Don't expect to run away as soon as there is a war and come back when there is peace. How can there be so many good things in the world? This operation was also to prepare for the next war so that when Class 1 Hall attacked again, it wouldn't be a mess again. After Crazy Manor settled down, Yi Qinghan brought the 13 experts back to the undying immortal realm. The entire immortal realm had changed. It was no longer as desolate as before. There were herb fields everywhere, and they cultivated their own resources. Heaven and earth arrays were everywhere, and the laws of order were much stronger. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Seeing that the immortal realm had stabilized, he was completely relaxed. Li Ying and the others looked at how beautiful the undying immortal realm was. Although they thought that most of it had been mined, it was still more beautiful than the ancient world. They couldn't help but praise, "What a beautiful world! I wonder what the ancestral land's ancient immortal realm is like." These people had never seen the ancestral land's ancient immortal realm before. Yi Qinghan looked up at the void. Back then, the node between the two worlds had disappeared. Class 1 Hall's Hall Master used a great ability to sever the relationship. Those from the ancient immortal realm couldn't return, and those from the immortal realm couldn't enter. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan led the group across the void ridge, crossed countless territories and arrived at the heaven-suppressing palace a month later. Over the past 10,000 years, The overall strength of the immortal realm had increased by leaps and bounds. It was rich in resources, and as long as one was willing to work hard, there was no need to worry about a lack of resources. The fighting strength of Crazed Manor had also increased by leaps and bounds, especially the experts who had fought Class 1 Hall to the death. They had advanced by leaps and bounds, almost reaching the Dao Patrol realm. Qitian Monkey King improved the fastest. Yi Qinghan's battle prowess had increased by several folds. Now, he was somewhat similar to Yi Qinghan. Back then, he had fought to the death with Sovereign Yi and the others against the inheritor of the ancient river. This had indeed made others look at him in a new light. At this moment, Yen Ao had already refined the Yen ancestors' arms. The compatibility between the ears and eyes of the Yen clan was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan's. It was as if these two legs, ears, and eyes were originally his. Now, Yen Ao had officially replaced the number 1 sovereign in the world and was in charge of the military. Even Chess Saint did not dare to act recklessly. If it wasn't for Yen Ao, Chess Saint would have already lost his patience. If he wanted to use his army to fight against Class 1 Hall, he would have destroyed the immortal realm and plundered all its resources. Unfortunately, Yen Ao had been suppressing him, preventing him from plundering the immortal realm's resources. With 5 million strong heaven-conquering army, the resources consumed were astronomical. If he was allowed to act recklessly, the others would not be able to cultivate anymore. But even so, Crazed Manor would give 40% of their resources to Chess Saint every year, allowing him to be at ease. Boom! Yi Qinghan appeared outside of the heaven-suppressing palace with a dozen experts. He unleashed his aura and the Crazed Manor's older experts immediately sensed it. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In just a blink of an eye, dozens of experts appeared outside of the heaven-suppressing palace. They were the Crazed Manor's older generation, Chu Shi, Jun Xian, House Master, and the others. Zhu Hai and the others thought that they were strong enough to ascend to the heavens, but they did not expect the Crazed Manor to have so many experts. There were at least 7 to 8 experts that could easily suppress them. They could not help but gasp. Sai Yi Xiao Sa appeared in his human form, clenched his fist proudly and showed it to the crowd. He said proudly, "Am I cool now?" TSK. The Crazed Manor's people couldn't help but roll their eyes at Yi Xiao Sa's shameless behavior. Although he was a cold-blooded animal, he had been assimilated by the divine bird. He was so shameless that he did not look like a venomous snake at all. What a handsome snake! Dark Dance did not know the truth and praised with a grin. At this moment Yi Xiao Sa almost flew into the sky. He pointed at Zhu Hai and the others and said, "See this? See this? Even the beauties are praising me. How dare you look down on me?" He ate, Pa. Supreme Yi wanted to tell Dark Dance that Yi Xiao Sa ate an imperial corpse that had been rotting for countless years, but Yi Xiao Sa gave him a tight slap. Whoosh! Supreme Yi was sent flying by the slap and his eyes were seeing stars. Don't listen to his nonsense. You all know how shameless he is. In order to destroy my image in your hearts, he must be trying to slander me. No matter what they say in the future, don't believe them. Yi Xiao Sa glared at Zhu Hai and Supreme Yi fiercely and bared his teeth, as if warning them. It seemed that he still cared about the Crazed Manor's attitude towards him. Supreme Yi roared and shouted, "You son of a bitch! How dare you hit the boss? I'll fight it out with you!" Boom! Roar! Supreme Yi used the Beast God Cannon and turned into a fierce tiger, punching at Yi Xiao Sa. Whoosh! Yi Xiao Sa waved his hand indifferently and pressed down on Supreme Yi's head. No matter how he attacked, the tiger-shaped fist attacked his limbs and bones, but he did not feel anything at all. He had already withstood the wrath of heaven, so why would he care about Supreme Yi's attack? Supreme Yi used his full strength, but Yi Xiao Sa did not even use 1/10 of his combat strength. Everyone from the Crazed Manor was shocked. They did not expect the colorful snake to become so strong. In the future, Everyone can call me Xiao Sa. If you respect my strength, you can also call me Brother Xiao Sa. I will protect you. Yi Xiao Sa had a smug look on his face as he pressed down on Supreme Ye's head and turned to everyone. There was always a higher mountain, and a person was more despicable than the other. Yi Xiao Sa and Supreme Yi were as despicable as their names. Crazed Manor had long been used to it. At this moment they were waving their hands and booing. Only Dark Dance felt that Yi Xiao Sa was speaking the truth. She even said respectfully, "I think he's very strong. He's stronger than all of us. He's not wrong. Why are you using such an attitude to destroy a child's enthusiasm?" Yi Xiao Sa had never been recognized by others like this. The heroic spirit of a man poured out. He patted his chest and said, "Little girl, I'll protect you from now on. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll break their 108 ribs and break their inheritance." "All right, Brother Xiao Sa," Dark Dance said without holding back. Dark Dance was too naive. She respected experts when she met them. She called everyone from the Crazed Manor brother and sister. She never made an enemy of anyone. Although she had been cultivating in the Lord God space for many years, most of her time was spent helping others. Perhaps Yi Xiao Sa was suitable to get along with this kind of girl. She was not scheming and believed everything he said. Yi Qinghan smiled and gestured with his hand. "Everyone, don't watch this group of people make a fool of themselves. Let's go into the main hall and discuss how to deal with Class 1 hall. Please recommend me. I beg for votes. I beg for everything. I'll roll on the ground begging. I should have 4 or 5 votes at night." Chapter 2799. Zhu Hai, the Blood Saint race, Li Ying and the others followed Yi Qinghan into the inner palace of the heaven-suppressing palace. Many of the experts had yet to come out as Jian Qinxue and Emperor Yi had been busy with the celestial nation's affairs, wasting a lot of time. Jian Qinxue and Emperor Yi saw Yi Qinghan's return and they immediately pounced on him. The Kuang Manor's people only turned around and smiled, some even winked at each other. Zhu Hai, Li Ying, Tang Chu, the Blood Saint race's experts, and the others were too embarrassed to look at Yi Qinghan and his wife hugging each other. So, they began to observe the Kuang Manor's people. All these years, they had heard Yi Qinghan talk about the brothers and sisters of the Kuang Manor. Although they had never seen them before, they could recognize many of them. "If I'm not mistaken, you should be Yan Ao, Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King and the others, right?" Xing Yan pointed at the crowd. He was actually able to recognize everyone from the crazy mansion. The Kuang Manor's people clasped their fists and bowed. Xing Yan and the others, on the other hand, had heard of Yan Ao and the others for a long time. Now that they were familiar with each other, they started chatting with each other, giving Yi Qinghan enough time and space. At this moment, Hualing Tian was staring at Li Ying. His heart was moved like never before. However, he couldn't help but show a perverted expression. He walked up to her and smiled. "Beautiful lady, how should I address you?" Li Ying was speechless. Why were some of the Kuang Manor's people so serious and some so perverted? Li Ying said coldly. "I'm Hualing Tian." Hualing Tian smiled. Li Ying glanced at him and replied coldly, "I've heard that you are the most perverted and despicable among the Kuang Manor's humans." Hualing Tian was speechless. He didn't expect his boss to give him such an evaluation. Little did he know that this evaluation came from Sovereign Yi. Sovereign Yi said that you have inherited his true teachings. I don't think that's true. How can a human be so despicable? Now that I've seen it for myself, it's true. This was the first time Li Ying spoke so much, and she was speaking so seriously. She stared at Hualing Tian as if she could see a flower blossoming out of flowers. Hualing Tian was not angry. Instead, he said proudly, "You can't be too serious. That's boring. Pretty girl, let me show you around." There are still many places in the undying, immortal realm. Now that boss is being pestered by sister-in-law, he probably won't be released for a few years. For the first time, Li Ying did not refuse. She nodded and said, "Okay." Yi Chenxing and the others immediately widened their eyes. They did not expect this guy to make the first move to pick up a girl. Whoosh! In an instant, at least 3 to 5 experts from Crazy Manor stared at Sheng Lan, Sheng Yener and Sheng Xianling. First come, first serve. Soon, the 3 sisters were led away by several experts from the Crazy Manor. Yi Chenxing did not want anyone. He was all alone. All these years, he had focused on helping Dark Dance, saving lives and helping people. His mentality was very clear. However, Dark Dance did not seem to regard him as a hero. It would take a long time before he could win her over. Soon, the male and female partners left. Only Zhu Hai and the other men were left looking at each other. Yan Ao quickly led the group to tour the various districts of Crazy Manor. After all, the ratio of men to women in the Celestial Nation was too great. There were fewer men and more women. It was easy to find a beauty. Zhu Hai and the others were more interested in pursuing the Tao than in seeking pleasure. Therefore, they were not interested in the relationship between men and women. At this moment, Yi Qinghan, Ren Huangyi, and Jian Qinxue had entered the Celestial Nation's main imperial palace. Yi Qinghan did not only care about being intimate with Jian Qinxue. Over the years, countless pieces of information had accumulated, and there was a lot of information about the ancient immortal realm. No matter how the Hall Master cut off all contact, there were still some clues. Emperor Yi and Jian Qinxue put all the clues about the ancient immortal realm together, especially the most important ones, at the top. Emperor Yi took out a piece of information and said in a crisp voice, "Husband, there is a piece of information here. Someone discovered the fluctuation of the ancient immortal realm. Every 1,000 years there will be a big fluctuation. The rest of the time it is very stable. Maybe Class 1 Hall made a mistake and did not block it. However, with our strength, if we forcefully break the node, we are afraid that Class 1 Hall will be alerted. We are also afraid that they are waiting for us. Therefore, we have not touched it." Yi Qinghan looked at the information. The location was in the western part of the North Sea, which should be Shao Thearka's territory relative to the ancient immortal realm. He had checked all the nearby territories and did not find any trace of Class 1 Hall. Therefore, it should not be deliberately left by Class 1 Hall. When was the last fluctuation? Yi Qinghan asked. More than 300 years ago. There are still more than 600 years left. We have observed it several times. It is almost very peaceful. There will definitely be an explosion every 1,000 years. The fluctuation is very obvious, Jian Qinxue replied. Yi Qinghan nodded silently and asked, "Are there any other special clues?" "We found some ancient traces of Class 1 Hall. It is a hall from the Archean era called the Outer Hall. It was buried underground. After it was dug out, most of it rotted. Therefore, there is very little specific information. It is all some unfamiliar words and names. Even Chu Shijun and the others do not know those words. It should not be of much use now," Jian Qinxue said seriously. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said firmly, "No, the more preserved it is, the better the material is. The more important the information is. Where is that hall?" Emperor Yi replied, "In the Demon's Ceiling Cave. We dug this place out. Although many people were sacrificed, it is still valuable. There are many powerful cultivation methods and resources. The equipment and materials of the ancient gods and ancient immortals have not been destroyed because they are well preserved. My son, come with me. Qinxue, you stay here and take care of the situation." Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He was even more certain that there was definitely a big clue in that place. As the saying goes, before the 3 armies move, the provisions will move first. That place was definitely the place where Class 1 Hall's army pushed the resources. It should be a very important outer hall. Emperor Yi and Jian Qinshui did not refuse. After all, Emperor Yi was in charge of the outer hall, while Jian Qinshui was in charge of the inner hall. Emperor Yi was more familiar with this matter. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan brought Emperor Yi and sword into the sky. They broke through the void and directly crossed half of the Qingzuan Immortal Empire's original territory and entered the Demon Ceiling Cave. At this time, there was an army stationed here. There were 30,000 ancient killing gods and a group of natives. They were there to prevent external forces from destroying this place. The palaces were newly built to store and protect the excavated ancient books and artifacts. Let's go to the palace first. There are many ancient books and historical records there. There are also some information about the immemorial era. Emperor Yi took the initiative to walk forward and led Yi Qinghan into the main hall. The main hall was filled with ancient artifacts. There was a glass cover made of gold and jade that covered the plaque inside. The words Class 1 Hall were engraved on it. The plaque was rusty and ancient, showing the majesty of Class 1 Hall in the immemorial era. This plaque proved that the Demon Ceiling Cave was a branch of Class 1 Hall in the past. Moreover, it was very important. Some of the ancient books were sealed. They were all wrapped in gold and jade. Not even a trace of aura could enter. They would not rot even if they were placed here for tens of thousands of years. The others are all ancient secret arts. Only some ancient papers here have the arrangements and plans of the past written on them. There are also some names. Emperor Yi led Yi Qinghan to the deepest part. The ancient artifacts here were the most important. Therefore, they were all preserved in the depths of the palace. No one was allowed to get close. Yi Qinghan took down the gold and jade covers and carefully read the plans written on them. Take the Yen Emperors. Capture the Yen Emperors. Capture the 3 million Yen clan. Army. The Emperor personally. Resources. Await, many bamboo slips had rotted and only fragmented words were left. It was very difficult to restore them. Chapter 2800. One bamboo scroll revealed the meticulous plan of Class 1 Hall. They really did take Yen Emperor's life at Crying Ghost Mountain Ridge. Someone from the 12 immemorial emperors must have come personally, but no one knew which Taigu emperor it was. Crying Ghost Mountain Ridge buried 3 million Yen clan's deathsworn. Those 3 million soldiers must be the elites of the Yen clan, or they wouldn't be led by Yen Emperor himself. Another bamboo scroll had a line of words carved on it. Yin Emperor. 5 million ancient gods. Fallen. This battle, although we won, we lost. This was a report of the battle, but for some reason, it wasn't sent out even though they had already won. However, from these words, one could see how tragic the battle at Ghost Weeping Ridge was. Yin Emperor personally went out. Although he killed Yen Emperor and 3 million Yen clan loyalists, 5 million ancient gods and ancient immortals also died. Yen Emperor's strength is so strong. Yi Qinghan looked at the bamboo scrolls and discovered that Yen Ao's strength had not reached its peak yet. The trump card left behind by the Flame Ancestor should be comparable to the Flame Emperor. The Flame Emperor was able to defeat Class 1 Hall even when one of the 12 ancient emperors, the Yin Emperor, personally came out. Yi Qinghan continued reading the other bamboo scrolls and finally, he found an unfamiliar name in one of the bamboo scrolls. Chu Jun. Yi Qinghan immediately noticed the two words. Who is Chu Jun? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, but the Chu Jun bamboo scroll was broken at the front and back. It was rusty and moldy. A light touch would break the entire bamboo scroll. More than 10 words away, he found the word migration. Summon Zhu Hai and the others here. I want to know who this Chu Jun is. Yi Qinghan said firmly. Emperor Yi retreated and quickly returned to Heaven Suppressing Prefecture. At this time, Yen Ao was leading the others on a tour. I have discovered something. My husband invites all of you to make a trip over, Emperor Yi hurriedly said. He took the lead and rushed in the direction of the demon's sealing lair. Yan Ao and the others did not hesitate and quickly followed Emperor Yi to Demon's Sealing Cave. Hua! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Liang glanced at them and asked Huolingtian, "Where are they heading?" When Huolingtian saw that Emperor Yi was leading the way, he immediately said, "It's in the direction of the Demon's Sealing Cave. Let's go there too." Whoosh! The two of them sped up, turning into roaming dragons as they rushed over. Half a day later, everyone arrived at the Demon's Sealing Cave. Everyone entered the main hall and surrounded Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan pointed at the bamboo slip and asked directly, "Who was Chu Jun during the primordial era?" Perhaps Chu Jun was an honorific title, but it could also be a person's name. However, there was the word migrate behind it, which made it a little strange. If it was an honorific title, Class 1 Hall had an obvious advantage during the ancient era. They were the main attackers, so why would they migrate? If it was a personal name, it should be related to the many families and forces that had escaped. Everyone frowned. During the primordial era, very few people knew the names of the super experts except for the 12 emperors and the 6 master god. However, these people were not called Chu Jun. At this moment, Liang said, "In the primordial era, Chu Jun and Crown Prince were pseudonyms. The Crown Prince here should be a direct descendant of one of the 12 emperors. Of course, it could also mean something else. This was only one of the possible explanations. However, Yi Qinghan did not think so. If it was a direct descendant of one of the 12 emperors, why would they migrate?" At this moment, Chu Jun Xian asked curiously, "Could the Chu Jun they are referring to be my Chu-Shi lineage? Back then, my clan also migrated and fled during the war." Yi Qinghan stared at the bamboo slip and shook his head. He muttered to himself, "This Chu Jun clearly refers to everyone and not a descendant of a family. If I can restore the bamboo slip," just as Yi Qinghan was muttering to himself, a glint flashed. He suddenly thought of his anti-order nomological laws. Could he reverse the order of the rusty and rotten materials and restore them? Yi Qinghan waved his hand and used the anti-order nomological laws to restore the bamboo slip. Holy light covered it and some of the rotten materials and iron shavings on the bamboo slip were reversed. Lord Chu Jun, the last two words were "Milord." These two words made it clear that Chu Jun was not referring to someone's bloodline legacy, but a person with a high status. Even the people from Class 1 Hall called him Milord. Hua! Yi Qinghan reversed the nomological laws and order. Everything was changing. "Lord Chu Jun, we have followed your instructions, and are preparing to migrate." Hua! Pung! The bamboo slip finally could not withstand it and collapsed, turning into a wisp of dust. There was no trace of it at all. When Yi Qinghan saw the bamboo slip disappear, he was furious. He cursed, "Damn it, you can't hold on at the crucial moment. Where are you migrating to?" Yes, the most important thing was where they migrated to. However, the location of the location was destroyed before he could restore it. Who is this Lord Chu Jun? Why can he order Elite Hall branch? Why wasn't this bamboo slip sent out when we were victorious? Who did Chu Jun ask Elite Hall's outer hall to cooperate with to migrate to? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. Once he figured this out, he would be able to figure out Class 1 Hall's structure. He would also be able to find the location where the ancient factions migrated. He would definitely be able to catch a big fish by torturing them. We can split into two lines to see why this news hasn't spread. First, it's murder. Second, after the Yin Emperor defeated the Yen Emperor, he found another group of people to kill. It could be the Yen ancestor or the Liang Emperor. Let's think, if it's murder, who is most likely to do it? If Yen Zhu or Lord Liang Emperor killed this outer hall member, then there is nothing we can do. It is understandable, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Everyone was at a loss. The people of Crazy Manor definitely did not know about ancient history. Zhu Hai and the others were expelled from the ancient immortal world before the ancient war broke out. It was even more impossible for them to know. They were once again at a deadlock. No one could provide any useful information. At this moment, the district mistress appeared and said bluntly, "I know a thing or two about primordial history. Back then, in the battle at Ghost Weeping Ridge, the Yen Emperor died in battle. Emperor Liang was held back by another primordial emperor and was too late to provide reinforcements. By the time they arrived at Ghost Weeping Ridge, the Yen Emperor was already dead. He fought with Emperor Yin and defeated him, destroying everything around him. That was the main reason for the formation of Ghost Weeping Ridge and Demon Sealing Cave. The answer you want is right here." He didn't silence them, but rather, Emperor Liang was too late to provide reinforcements. If Lord Liang took action, everything would make sense. However, Chu Jun's identity was still a mystery. Could this Lord Chu Jun be the Hall Master of Elite Hall? Yi Qinghan looked at everyone curiously and asked in a low voice. Everyone nodded. Someone who could command an important outer hall member of Elite Hall, even if he wasn't the Hall Master. He was still one of the 12 emperors. "District Mistress, can you help me find out the identity of this Lord Chu Jun? Help me find out even the slightest clue. I want to find out Chu Jun's true identity," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "If you want to find out Chu Jun's identity, I'm afraid you will have to look in the ancient immortal world. The Hall Master of Elite Hall has never appeared in the immortal world, let alone his people," the district mistress said calmly. Chapter 2801. Thanks to Peking University's Piao Hong. The ancient immortal world could only be entered from the North Sea after 600 years. Yi Qinghan temporarily gave up on entering the ancient immortal world and continued to search for other clues. However, the information he obtained was all about the deployment and plans of the past and was of no use. After sorting out all the information, Yi Qinghan silently recorded the name Chu Jun in his mind, and then stepped into the Demon Sealing Cave. Thousands of death warriors had died in order to open this passage. The older generation of the Crazy Manor had contributed greatly, and the elders of the unorthodox path had also contributed. It took thousands of years to open this passage. Now, the killing seals inside had disappeared, forming a deep passage. There were gems everywhere on the stone walls for illumination. Yi Qinghan led the group into the tunnel, and he noticed that the deeper they went, the wider the tunnel became. There were even some ancient houses inside, and Class 1 Hall's branch was located there. The houses had collapsed in the past, and they had been buried for a long time. They had long since lost their majesty and awe-inspiring presence, and had turned into ruins. Yi Qinghan walked deeper. The first and second place of Luo Wuhan's generation had disappeared from here. There must be a way to another place here, possibly the ancient immortal world. Whoosh! The deeper Yi Qinghan went, the darker it became because the Crazy Manor did not want to go any deeper. There was no value inside, and there were immortal seals that would constantly devour people's lives. There was no need to waste manpower and resources to open this passage. Blue flames shot out from Yi Qinghan's eyes, illuminating the surroundings. He struck out with his palm, and the killing patterns hidden in the dark exploded, rushing in all directions. The entire mountain shook, but when the aftershock hit him, it was immediately dissolved into the power of the Dharma and logos of order, disappearing into nothingness. Now, even a Dao patrol might not be able to hurt him because his anti-order laws had reached a certain level. It would not be an exaggeration to say that half of his body was outside of the 5 elements. Perhaps only the 12 emperors of the ancient age or the Hall Master of the Elite Hall could kill him. After hundreds of miles, the passage came to an end. There was a stone wall in front of them, blocking the way. There were no energy fluctuations. Yi Qinghan looked at the stone wall, his eyes penetrating all laws and seeing through all illusions. With a wave of his hand, the stone wall shone brightly. When the emperor ascends to the top, even the heavens will be a man. Flame Emperor. 12 words. They were very simple, but they were filled with dominance and dignity. That determination and confidence were incomparable. There were 2 lines of words left behind by the Yen Emperor. The 2 lines of words were filled with runes. It seemed like a seal. One could enter a place from here, but one could forget about leaving unless one could break the seal left behind by the Yen Emperor. Hiss! The outstanding heroes following behind were all shocked, especially Yen Ao. He clenched his fists tightly. This was the mark left behind by the ancestors of the Yen clan. How grand was this dream! Perhaps even the Yen ancestor wouldn't dare to say such words. When the sovereign ascends to the top, even the heavens will become a human. As someone who wasn't in the Taigu Emperor realm, he had fought against the Yin Emperor, one of the 12 immemorial emperors. Even though he had lost, it was still an honorable defeat. Who else but the Yen Emperor could use at least 3 million men of sacrifice to kill an army of 5 million? Yi Qinghan had always been confident, but this was a step that he had yet to take. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan bowed slightly towards the Flame Emperor. He revered and respected such a person. Whoosh! Zhong Kuang appeared. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and cut the stone wall in 4 directions, cutting off the 12 words. The power of the anti-order laws severed the outer seal, causing the entire stone wall to fall off. Yi Qinghan actually wanted to keep these 12 words. These 12 words are the goal that I strive for. Let me encourage you. Yi Qinghan retrieved the huge stone block. The spatial fluctuations within it suddenly intensified. This was indeed the passage to the ancient immortal world. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan handed the stone block to Yen Ao and said indifferently, "I'll enter the ancient immortal world first to explore. You guys work together to seal this place." "I'll go with you," Zhu Hai and the rest said in unison. The ancestral land was right on the other side. They all wanted to go and take a look. Yi Qinghan refused. "No, we don't even know what's on the other side. Moreover, we'll be exposed if there are too many people. Don't worry, we'll take back the ancient immortal world sooner or later." No one could refute Yi Qinghan's orders. Kuang Fu was already used to it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan leaped and disappeared with the help of a spatial node. Then, he waved his hand and sealed this place. Anyone who wanted to enter or leave had to obtain his permission. There was a desolate aura in front of him, filled with vicissitudes and majesty. The path back then had been taken over by thorns and weed. There were only endless valleys in all directions. There were no obvious buildings or mountains. If they left, it would be difficult to find this place again. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan leaped and rushed to a nearby mountain. He looked into the distance. Apart from the endless blue sky and white clouds, there were no special directional markers. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan looked around. Apart from the similar mountains and forests, there was nothing else. He could only fly higher and higher, trying to find a coordinate to find the way back. However, he underestimated the ancient immortal world. Even the Hall Master of Elite Hall would need many years to traverse the entire ancient immortal world. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to carve some special markings nearby to remind himself. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan entered the mountains and rivers. He hid himself and continued to move deeper. There were no signs of life in the countless miles around him. There was not even a person training. Where did Elite Hall put all the natives of the immortal world that they recruited? Why didn't I see a single person even though I traveled so far? Yi Qinghan avoided countless beasts and bird. He did not want to alarm them, nor did he want to alarm Elite Hall. In the valley where the Taigu Emperor was, every time Yen Yunbei obtained some cultivation insights, He would store them in a fixed place in his sea of consciousness. This Taigu Emperor's staff art was indeed very powerful. It was a heavenly law, and it was very difficult for anyone to surpass it. However, he was not too interested in this Taigu Emperor's staff art. He only wanted to impart it to Chi Tian Monkey King. After all, it was the Taigu Emperor's staff art. If he did not learn it, it would be a waste. After cultivating for thousands of years, he had mastered the staff art. Even if he did not like staff arts, his battle strength had increased to a terrifying level. Once a technique was mastered, all techniques could be mastered. Yan Yunbei had used the Taigu Emperor's staff art to evolve the Taigu Emperor's staff art. However, the weapon was not a staff, but a dagger. After thousands of years, under the nurturing of the Taigu Emperor and devouring countless immortal medicines, Yan Yunbei had stepped into the realm of Dao Patrol. He wanted to proclaim himself as an emperor, but he was stopped by the Taigu Emperor. If you proclaim yourself as an emperor with this level of cultivation, your potential will be exhausted. If you want to reach my level of cultivation, you are still far from being an emperor. Startling Immemorial Emperor admired Yan Yunbei quite a bit. However, Yan Yunbei didn't like to cultivate the rod technique. He had already noticed that every time Yan Yunbei cultivated the startling Emperor's rod technique, Yan Yunbei would evolve into another assassination technique. The dagger was like a heaven-shaking rod that could shake the heaven and earth and kill with one strike. Yan Yunbei was shocked. He did not expect that proclaiming oneself as an emperor would require knowledge. Let me put it this way. The first emperor under the heavens. I don't know if you have heard of this person. His battle strength is close to ours. If he proclaims himself as an emperor, he could even suppress us. However, he did not proclaim himself as an emperor. Instead, he wanted to take another step forward. Once he proclaims himself as an emperor, he would be able to dominate the ancient times and surpass the Yan ancestor. Dominating the ancient times was a very vague phrase. Someone had done it before, and that was the immemorial Yin-Yang immortal emperor. However, he had not fought with the 12 immemorial emperors before. Therefore, no one knew who was stronger between him and the Yan ancestor. Facing the serious expression of the Taigu Emperor, Yan Yunbei gave up on proclaiming himself as an emperor because he did not want to stop at Dao Patrol. Your strength should be pretty good. I want you to help me go to Sky Ascension Peak to get the heavenly medicine. Right now. The Taigu Emperor stared at Yan Yunbei. His eyes could see through the illusion and even see into Yan Yunbei's heart. If Yan Yunbei dared to play tricks, he would kill him today. Chapter 2802. Although some people are urging me to update, can you not give me such a low score? I already update 10 chapters a day. It's so hard. Is there a need to insult Kuang Wuzhan like this? I'll give you 2 out of 10 points. Jing Tiandi had placed all his hopes on Yan Yunbei. If he didn't help, it would be equivalent to wasting his thousands of years of effort. Yan Yunbei would definitely die miserably. However, Yan Yunbei wasn't an ungrateful person. Learning an emperor's technique and saving his life. No matter where Sky Ascension Peak was, it would definitely be very dangerous. If there was a heavenly medicine, it would definitely be controlled by Elite Hall. If he wanted to take it, it would be equivalent to giving his life away. No matter whether he could take it back or not, this debt of gratitude was repaid. Lord Jing Tiandi, please tell me the location and the arrangements around Sky Ascension Peak. I can't guarantee that I can take it back for you. However, if I can't, I will die there to repay Senior's kindness. If I can take it back, I will have repaid Senior's kindness. When we meet again in the future, we will be strangers. Yan Yunbei said in a deep voice. Jing Tiandi shook his head and said in a deep voice, No. If you take it back, you still have to help me do one more thing. Go to Elite Hall and help me save someone. my son, Shuekuan. Because of my bloodline, I don't have many descendants. I only have this one son and 3 grandsons. He can't die. Otherwise, my inheritance will be broken. Yan Yunbei frowned and said bluntly, Senior, with my cultivation, going to Elite Hall is no different from suicide. Don't worry, I will support you. I will help you hold back the Hall Master of Elite Hall. Consider it as doing me a favor. I will repay you in the future. Jing Tiandi requested in a deep voice. Jing Tiandi had no other choice. Back then, the immortal generals had all died in battle. Now, he was alone without any support or helpers. He could only ask Yan Yunbei for help. Yan Yunbei thought for a moment and nodded. I will try my best. Now, tell me the location of Sky Ascension Peak. What exactly is the heavenly medicine? Where is it? What are the defenses around it? I need to know everything clearly. Otherwise, it will be difficult to get it. Jing Tian Taigu Emperor slowly stood up. Half of his body looked extremely terrifying. He was already a little ugly, but now he looked even more ferocious. Heaven Ascension Peak is where we were born. It is only 1 step away from the heavens, and it is the highest peak in the ancient celestial realm. If you head east, you will see the purple energy coming from the east. Once you pass through the barrier, you will find another world. You can see the Heaven Ascension Peak if you look up. That domain is called the Chaos Heavenly Domain. Everything is still in the beginning, and if you are lucky enough, the archaic emperors will be born again. Once you get there, don't wander around. Go directly to Heaven Ascension Peak. Jing Tian Taigu Emperor stared at Yan Yunbei and continued to remind him in a deep voice. Don't be greedy. You will be punished by the heavens if you take the heavenly medicine. When you take the heavenly medicine, you must kneel and pray to the heavens. Tell the heavens that you are taking the medicine to save the Taigu Emperor and not for your own selfish desires. One is enough. Otherwise, you have no hope of leaving alive. When you take the medicine, don't touch the lightning of heavenly punishment. If there are heavenly beasts, run as fast as you can. Don't even think about fighting them. Heavenly beasts won't leave the chaotic heavenly domain. Don't worry about that. There aren't many of them. As long as you hide well enough, they won't find you. They are all in a coma. Jing Tian Taigu Emperor slowly reminded him. He didn't dare to hide anything from Sky Ascension Peak. If Yan Yunbei failed, he didn't know how many years it would take for him to recover his battle strength. However, he couldn't go out. This was the paradise that he had formed with the last of his strength. Here, he was invincible and could preserve his life. If he went out, he wouldn't be so lucky. Yan Yunbei remembered Jing Tian Emperor's words in his heart. He didn't dare to be careless. Senior, I'll go first. Yan Yunbei bowed slightly and cupped his fists. Whoosh! Jing Tian Taigu Emperor waved his hand and sent out a wisp of memory energy. He said in a deep voice, "This is the last 2 profound meanings of the Taigu Emperor staff art. If it's not necessary, don't use it. The last 2 profound meanings can instantly consume all of your energy source." Yan Yunbei nodded solemnly. He bowed and retreated. Whoosh! Jing Tian Emperor's staff suddenly appeared in front of Yan Yunbei. "I won't mistreat you if you work for me. This Taigu Emperor's staff is yours. Return it to me when you come back," Jing Tian Emperor said in a deep voice. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei put away Jing Tian Emperor's staff and carried it on his back. He held a dagger in his hand and quietly moved through space. He went straight to the top of the cliff. Far away from the top of the cliff, the patrolman was still waiting secretly. Yan Yunbei had been hiding in his paradise under the cliff for thousands of years. The patrolman had been waiting here for thousands of years. He was determined to get Yan Yunbei from Crazy Manor. Yan Yunbei carefully sneaked up. He was no longer the Yan Yunbei of the past. The patrolman hadn't discovered him, but he had discovered him. Yan Yunbei, who had restrained his aura to the extreme, moved along the cliff and avoided the patrolman. he rushed to the east from another direction. The patrolman didn't know and was still waiting there silently. Yi Qinghan shuttled through the void and moved continuously, trying to find Class 1 Hall's location. However, even after searching for many years, he still could not find any signs of human habitation. On the contrary, he also happened to be flying toward the east. The more he flew, the faster he flew, and the further he flew. Finally, Yi Qinghan found the patrolman at the bottom of the cliff. Patrolman? What's he doing here? Yi Qinghan looked at the cliff and then at the patrolman. His eyes flashed with killing intent. He waved his hand and a dagger appeared. In terms of assassination, he wasn't inferior to Yan Yunbei. However, his concealment technique was slightly inferior. Nevertheless, he controlled his aura very well. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan landed on the ground and quietly approached the patrolman. The patrolman was an emperor after all. No matter how weak he was still one of the Taigu emperors. His sense of danger was very accurate. Whoosh! Whoosh! The patrolman pulled out his sword and looked around vigilantly. Yi Qinghan was forced to stop. So vigilant, Yi Qinghan was shocked. He quickly changed his position and appeared behind a huge rock. Just as he was about to peek at the patrolman's movements, he suddenly found a mark on the rock. The special mark of Kuang Manor was usually left by the older generation of Kuang Manor subconsciously. Only a dozen or so of the older generation of Kuang Manor knew about this mark. Yi Qinghan often left this mark, sometimes not to remind Kuang Manor what to do, but to tell them that he had been here before. The arrow of the mark pointed to the east. Those who didn't know about marks would see it in the opposite direction. Its brother Yen, Yi Qinghan was sure. In the ancient immortal world, other than Yan Yunbei, no one else knew about this mark. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan quickly retreated. He no longer wanted to assassinate the patrolman. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Yi Qinghan's speed became faster and faster. He rushed to the east. In the blink of an eye, he was dozens of miles away. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless leaves were grabbed by Yi Qinghan and thrown into the void to prevent immortal marks from appearing in front of him. Yi Qinghan was fast, but Yan Yunbei wasn't slow either. He was like an agile monkey shuttling through the void forest. His breathing was steady, and the dagger in his hand could kill the attacking beasts and poisonous creatures in an instant. After 20 years of chasing, Yi Qinghan still couldn't catch up to Yan Yunbei. Damn, this guy is so fast? Yi Qinghan was speechless. He had already used his maximum speed, but he still couldn't catch up. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan descended into the forest, trying to find the mark left behind by Yan Yunbei. However, it was a very small mark and was very difficult to find. If it wasn't for a coincidence, he wouldn't have been able to find it. However, the distance between the two wasn't far. At most, there was a gap of 3 to 5 days. However, the ancient immortal world's laws and logos were dense, and the coverage of the immortal world's consciousness was far inferior to that of the immortal world. On this day, Yan Yunbei seemed to be tired. He stopped in a valley for a while to clean himself up and find some spiritual herbs to replenish his strength. Yan Yunbei, who was born with a sense of danger, found something wrong the next day. Someone is following me. Chapter 2803. It had to be said that Yan Yunbei was too powerful. Yi Qinghan was so far away, yet he could still sense him. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei stopped cultivating. Instead, he pulled out his dagger and hid in the mountains, waiting silently. After waiting for a few days, a figure flew across the sky and appeared in the valley. The image of a dragon and a tiger soared into the sky with an imposing aura. Yan Yunbei looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. Even if the mask could be imitated, the aura could not be imitated. No one could imitate Yi Qinghan's aura. Yeezy whoosh! Yen Yunbei appeared in the valley. He looked at Yi Qinghan and said in shock, "Yi, why are you here?" When Yi Qinghan saw Yen Yunbei, he was immediately overjoyed. He took off his mask, waved his hand and hit Yen Yunbei's palm. He scolded, "You bastard, I have been chasing you for several years. I didn't expect you to improve so quickly after 10,000 years." Yen Yunbei smiled and retorted, "You've improved a lot. You're always able to suppress me. I'm almost convinced by you." Yi Qinghan laughed. He saw the shocking sky rod behind Yen Yunbei's back and asked in surprise, "Why is this shocking sky rod in your hands?" Yen Yunbei truthfully told Yi Qinghan everything. After Yi Qinghan heard it, he was immediately overjoyed. It seemed that Class 1 Hall wasn't harmonious under the management of this new Hall Master. "Did you find out who the Hall Master is?" Yi Qinghan asked excitedly. Yen Yunbei shook his head and replied, "Taigu Emperor Jing Tian is unwilling to say. He doesn't seem to know much about Class 1 Hall's Hall Master. However, what is certain is that the 12 Taigu Emperors and the 6 gods obeyed the orders of the new Hall Master because of the primordial Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor's orders. Jing Tian is also not sure if the encirclement of the Yen clan is the new Hall Master's idea or the primordial Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor's." Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and sighed. "I hope that the primordial Yin-Yang Immortal Emperor did not make a move. This matter should come to an end with the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. It's time to put an end to it." Yen Yunbei also nodded silently. Fighting against an immemorial Yin-Yang Immortal Monarch was a very strange thing to do. You might not be able to fight against that kind of person for the rest of your life. Even if your cultivation broke through the heavens, you might still be defeated by him. "Are you really planning to go to Heaven Ascension Peak?" Yi Qinghan looked at Yen Yunbei. Listening to his words, Sky Ascension Peak was definitely a place with a slim chance of survival. If one went there, they might not be able to return. Yen Yunbei nodded and said, "I owe him my life. If it wasn't for him back then, I would have been captured by the Tao Patrol. Plus, he taught me the Heavenly Emperor's staff art. I can't bear to do this. Yi, you should go back first. I'll go alone to get the heavenly medicine." Life and death are up to fate. Success and failure are up to the heavens. No. Since I've chased you all the way here, I definitely can't let you take the risk alone. Besides, I'm confident that I can come out alive. It just so happens that I want to see what the so-called chaotic heavenly domain is like. I also want to see the heavens and the heavenly medicine," Yi Qinghan said firmly. Since he was very weak, Yi Qinghan had always been very curious. The frequency of him seeking death was very fast. He always wanted to figure out the things he was curious about. Yen Yunbei looked at Yi Qinghan's determined expression and did not refuse. In fact, he also understood that Yi Qinghan was afraid that he would not be able to come back alive if he took the risk alone. Yi Qinghan and Yen Yunbei had a tacit understanding and lightly punched each other. "Then let's go to Sky Ascension Peak to take a look. Actually, I'm also curious about the feeling of reaching Sky Ascension Peak. I also want to see what the place where the 12 emperors and 6 master gods were born is like," Yen Yunbei said with a smile. "Ha ha," Yi Qinghan laughed. Men with ambition would always be motivated. What they were curious about was not boring things but things that were extreme. The two rested in the valley for a few days. Then, they quickly rushed into the void and headed east. With the two of them working together, their speed was even faster. They had their own roles to play in scouting and defense. There was no need to worry about the sudden attack of powerful primordial monsters. Xiao, 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 xiao. The two of them sped for more than 3,000 years, but they still didn't see any purple chi coming from the east. It had to be said that this supreme ancient immortal realm was truly vast and majestic. They cultivated as they hurried along. With the help of the laws and order here, they could see the vicissitudes of the world. Their state of mind was slowly changing. Another 800 years passed, and the two of them increased their speed to the extreme. There seemed to be no primordial killing formations here anymore. There were even some ancient tribes here, but they were sparsely populated. They should be from the primordial era, and had not had any contact with the outside world for countless years. This place did not experience the flames of war in the past, but there were very few people who could come to this border area. In addition, there were many ferocious beasts, so the survival rate was not high. Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei only observed from the outside world for a period of time. They did not disturb the living habits of these ancient people. Instead, they continued to head east. After about 3 years, they finally saw the purple chi coming from the east. It spread to the end of the east. In front of them was a towering mountain with white clouds, forming a natural barrier. Yan Yunbei was overjoyed. Barrier. You'll be able to see Sky Ascension Peak after passing through it. Yi Qinghan also exhaled a turbid breath. He really did not expect the primordial immortal world to be so huge. It took them 4,000 years just to rush from one place to the east. This was also because their cultivation level was close to the Taigu Emperor's. If it was someone else, they might not be able to reach here even if they sacrificed their lives. I really can't imagine the vastness and magnificence of the primordial immortal world. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He did not know how long it would take to reach the west from the valley where Jing Tiandi was. However, he was sure that it would take at least 10,000 years to go through the east and west. Yan Yunbei sighed. The universe is boundless. The stronger the realm, the more insignificant you feel. There is always a sky beyond a sky, and a person beyond a person. Where is the limit? No one knows. I'm afraid only Yen Zhu and the primordial Yin-Yang Emperor know. Ancestor realm. Yen Zhu was a half-ancestor. What was the primordial Yin-Yang Emperor's level? Probably only he himself knew. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi. He sat cross-legged at the foot of the mountain in the east and breathed in the purple qi, calming himself down from the hardships of traveling for the past 4,000 years. Yan Yunbei did not choose to enter the primal chaos heavenly domain. Even the Taigu Emperor was cautious of this place. If they entered it recklessly, they would definitely die. The 12 emperors of the primordial immortal world and the 6 master gods rarely entered the primal chaos heavenly domain after their birth. Normally, they would only come back once every epoch to offer sacrifices to the heavens. However, after the primordial war, no one came here to offer sacrifices to the heavens. Since then, no Taigu emperor was born in the primal chaos heavenly domain. Relying on cultivation, it was already very good to reach the Tao Patrol level. After all, there were too few people like Yen Emperor. Yi Qinghan did not dare to say that he could reach Yen Emperor's level in the future and become the #1 emperor in the world, an existence that even the Taigu Emperor acknowledged. The two rested here for about half a month. Their bodies were filled with energy once again. Only then did they get up and rush towards the barrier. After stepping through the barrier, they entered a brand new domain. A domain that had never appeared in the mortal world. Other than the Taigu Emperor, no one else had come here before. Chapter 2804. Sorry for the late update. Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain was a brand new name. Only a handful of people knew about it, not to mention ancient gods and ancient immortals. Even Tao patrollers didn't know about it. If they hadn't met the Taigu Emperor, Yan Yunbei wouldn't have known about it, and Yi Qinghan wouldn't have known about it either. Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain was the place where the 12 emperors and 6 overgods were born. Of course, in essence, this place didn't only give birth to these 18 people. As for who else was born, perhaps only those who stood at the top would know. Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei rushed towards the barrier. In the eyes of many people, the path to that place was dead, but the two didn't hesitate. Boom! Hua! The two directly smashed the void node and passed through the barrier. The space-time in front of them changed greatly. Everything was in its original state, and the most primitive state appeared in front of them. The origin of lightning was densely packed, and the spirit chi was in its initial state. This place controlled the entire universe and could pass through any place. The heavenly tribulation and lightning tribulation would set off from here and could reach every corner of the universe in an instant. A towering mountain soared into the sky from the void until it couldn't be seen. The mountain had already touched the end of the sky. Lofty, heavy, majestic, and magnificent. Hiss! Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei looked at each other and couldn't help but take a deep breath. Their eyes were filled with shock. This primal chaos heavenly domain was too big. Although there was no land, the buoyancy was very strong. Even those who didn't cultivate could float stably here, but there was no one here. Some strange treasured medicines were floating in the heavenly domain. They were surrounded by lightning, but the lightning wouldn't harm them. However, if someone with ambition touched them, not even dregs would be left. These weren't heavenly medicines. According to the Heavenly Emperor, those on Sky Ascension Peak were heavenly medicines. They could even heal his injuries. However, although these weren't heavenly medicines, they could directly restore the vitality of most people. When the big shots' lives were nearing their end, they could instantly defy the heavens and change their fate. Some celestial bodies floated about in the chaos celestial domain. The tiny atoms of the celestial bodies were constantly distorted and enlarged, forming small celestial bodies. They devoured each other and expanded, eventually forming a gigantic celestial body. When they reached a certain level of celestial body, they would leave the chaos celestial domain and enter the vast universe. It was not easy to form the Taigu Emperor here. It was purely a coincidence. Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei were stunned by the evolution in front of them. This kind of evolution was the purest and most primitive in the world. The Taigu Emperor was the purest and most primitive gathering of primal chaos energy. However, he had flesh and blood and could be inherited. This was definitely not something that could be set up by humans. Regardless of whether it was Zhu-Un or the Taigu Emperor, none of them could set up such an enormous origin heaven domain. Naturally, its power was boundless. Yi Qinghan scanned the surroundings. Everywhere was the beginning of primordial chaos, endless and boundless. He did not find any so-called heavenly beasts. Let's enter the Sky Ascension Peak. Yi Qinghan put on his mask and kept his long blade. At this moment, any weapon would be useless. If they wanted to take the heavenly medicine out of here, they would have to rely on luck. Without luck, they would not be able to take the heavenly medicine away even if it was right in front of them. Yan Yunbei took a deep breath and carried the heaven-shocking rod on his back. This Emperor's rod was also the most primitive substance. It would not trigger any mutation in this place and would instead protect him. "Let's go," Yan Yunbei said in a deep voice. The two joined hands and stood back to back, guarding all directions. Their eyes were emitting golden light. Even the slightest change could not escape their eyes. There was no sun, no moonlight, and no stars in this place. However, there was light radiating in all directions, allowing them to see very far. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The two rushed towards the Sky Ascension Peak. After traveling for a few days, the Sky Ascension Peak that was originally in front of them was still in front of them. However, they could not reach the foot of the mountain no matter how hard they tried. It was as if the Sky Ascension Peak would take a step back whenever they took a step forward. It was too far away. Moreover, this was the Sky Ascension Peak. Whoosh! Boom! When the initial lightning struck down from the Sky Ascension Peak, a huge star would appear out of nowhere. There were no rules, including the lightning and the location of the lightning. It was completely random. Whoosh! The lightning was extremely fast as it struck down from the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was above their heads. A fatal crisis shrouded their bodies. Whoosh, whoosh. The two of them split up and dodged. They shuttled through the chaotic sky of the heaven domain. Just as they landed, a huge star appeared. It was about a few 100 feet long. That star produced endless energy. Once it exploded, it would be enough to destroy a small star. If this kind of lightning struck a person's body, they would not be able to withstand the energy. Their flesh and blood would definitely explode and be torn apart. The two of them were drenched in cold sweat. After escaping from death, they looked at each other and became even more vigilant. However, at this moment, a heavenly beast appeared in front of them. It was the chaotic heavenly tiger. It had actually swallowed a star. The star that contained endless energy was quickly digested in its body. It was unimaginable how powerful a heavenly beast was. Yi Qinghan touched the newly born star. He could feel the energy that was produced due to the atomic change. It was equivalent to his peak attack. However, it was eaten by a heavenly beast when it was born. It was imaginable that these heavenly beasts could not be killed by humans. Heavenly beasts use initial energy as their food. I'm afraid the flesh and blood of humans is something that they are more interested in, Yi Qinghan said softly. Yan Yunbei nodded. He hid behind the star and waited silently for the heavenly beast to leave. However, at this moment, the huge chaotic heavenly tiger walked toward them. It was obvious that it had taken a fancy to this star. Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei immediately had goosebumps all over their bodies. There was no place to hide in this spacious chaotic heavenly domain. Even if there were small stars, they were food for the heavenly tiger. There was no way to retreat. Quick, think of something. There's no time, Yan Yunbei said hastily in a hoarse voice. Yi Qinghan shone brightly. He hid behind the star and looked at the chaotic heavenly tiger. It was not far away from them. It was not much different from an ordinary giant tiger. However, it was too majestic. The aura of chaos filled the air. It seemed to be more intelligent. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan had no choice but to drag Yi Xiaosa and Supremacy Yi out. Go, lure it away, Yi Qinghan said softly. Whoosh! Supremacy Yi was not stupid. He immediately fled back into Yi Qinghan's bloodline, leaving Yi Xiaosa dumbfounded. The chaotic heavenly beast was the only existence that he did not want to devour so far. Whoosh! Yi Xiaosa twisted his body and quickly changed back to his original form. He turned into a huge heavenly dragon. His fangs pierced through the star as if warning the chaotic heavenly tiger that it was its food. There were definitely many ferocious beasts in the heavenly domain. Therefore, the moment Yi Xiaosa appeared, the chaotic heavenly tiger was stunned. Then, it went into an attacking posture. It was extremely ferocious. Whoosh! Yi Xiaosa's teeth were about to be broken by the endless energy in the star. He quickly turned into a human. He held the stone with both hands and crawled forward. The powerful Yi Xiaosa had surrendered. Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Xiaosa's flattering actions and was speechless. The chaotic heavenly tiger was stunned. Clearly, this was the first time it had seen such a heavenly beast. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.